we're live.
You know, I listened back to that, and it always pleases me how that my composition in zeros works together.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I want to address the chat. We're late today because this revelation of Hollow Willabooby being a fella is frankly disturbing. And if that's so, then I'm gay for Holly Willabooby because she's all right.
And also, our guest hasn't turned up, so
it was a hard. I'm looking at the chat. I know we're going to be reading some stuff from Unsolved Mysteries, but my life says it was a hard path and a dangerous path, a crooked way and a lonely and a long. Hobbit Chapter 4. Oh, I haven't read The Hobbit in years.
No, I haven't read The Hobbit in years. I basically my history with the Lord of the Rings was I read The Hobbit, launched straight into the next 3 books and kind of got bored halfway through Return of the King. I kind of put it down about halfway, and then I picked it back up, and by the time I picked it up, I was confused again about who was who with all the really long names and the stuff. So I never finished the Return of the King.
I in primary school, the teacher's like, "Oh, you're reading Enid Blyton and who's C.S. Lewis? That's the contemporary of Tolkien." She says, "You should read."
Isn't T.S. Eliot an anagram of toilets?
T.S. Eliot, Eliot toilets. Yeah, Liz.
Yeah.
But suffice to say, I was reading all these things like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and so the teacher said to me, "Oh, you should read The Hobbit." And I got to about page 17. I was like, "Yeah, I'm bored of this now." So then, when did I feel I might have read it during my teen years. I don't remember. It didn't leave.
Well, I think I was like 13 when I read Lord of the Rings.
It didn't leave much of an impression on me, except there was this bit where they're walking through this forest, and Bilbo thinks that the forest is going on forever, but what he didn't notice is that they're in the valley, and if he looked up, then he would have just seen that that's why it wasn't that big a forest.
Right.
Yeah. So, Unsolved. I keep wanting to call it Mysteries, but that's
Unexplained Mysteries.
It's a throwback to Tales from the Trough when they had this segment on it called Unsolved Mysteries with I can't remember what the character's name on it was. Eventually, he does some fundraising so that he can take a trip to Antarctica to find Hitler.
Have you seen the trailer for Iron Sky 2?
Oh, is that coming out, is it?
Yeah, I think it's already out. I think I shared it in the Telegram group a while ago. Yeah, you got Hitler riding a T-Rex in it.
I mean, I watched the first one. It didn't really see like it could set itself up for a sequel. So
yeah, no, this one's Hollow Earth. So they've gone the other way this time.
Yes. Well, I would have gone with Antarctica, but I guess that's me.
Yeah, that's where I think that's where they're gone. Hollow Earth.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'll watch that. I the other one I enjoyed with Hitler. I mean, he gets about in a lot of these movies and games. Is Kung Fury. You've seen the scene where he assassinates the everyone in the police station by firing bullets down the telephone.
Yeah, because they don't have the same kind of trepidation, do they? The Chinese.
Well, the Kung Fury, it's a good film. It's very silly and tongue in cheek, and what I want to call him Dustin Hoffman, who's David Hasselhoff. That's the one. He liked the project so much that he agreed to do the credit song for the end of it. I think it's called True Survivor. Yeah, that's pretty good.
So. Yeah, and just hoping our guest turns up. Stash hasn't appeared yet, so we'll see. Hopefully he will.
Well, Stash, if the stars align properly and stuff, he'll he'll
Yeah.
appear and he'll pick up the slack, because I tell you what, I haven't been sleeping that well for the past few years, and the past few years, yeah, I haven't been sleeping well for the past few years, but especially not recently, and I can't seem to go to sleep before midnight. I don't know what it is. It's very rare I do. Oh,
So
I've
I've
got a forum as well.
I've put the trailer in there. Are we just going to read from Unexplained Mysteries tonight if Stash doesn't turn up?
Well, I thought we could do a bit of that. We could talk a bit about history and culture, because the thing I did say to Skugge, he sort of said, "Are you doing your stream tonight?" And I said, "No, I'm not doing it." And what was the reason? Oh yeah, because I wanted Adam as a guest, and Adam couldn't do it at the time when I said. And I said, "Well, we won't do it this week, but we'll do it next week, and we'll schedule it for 7:00." And the reason I didn't do it is it was clashing with I did a double bill, which apparently in YouTube is a real no-no, because you won't get more subscribers from it. But it's not about that. It's about the case of part 5 ended badly with the game over, so I did a part 6 to say, well, this is how it should have happened.
Yeah.
But the idea is I have a guest on, we play Backgammon, and we talk about games and how it pertains to our culture and where we get these things from.
I don't think I've ever played Backgammon.
Oh, well, if we there's a pub in Oxford.
I was a draftsman, and my dad was one of those people that doesn't let kids win. So I have a brutal history with drafts, which I quite enjoyed, because it makes you a bit more of a man, doesn't it? When you don't, when older people don't let you win.
Yeah, I mean, when it's you know, there's no point holding punches. Just Mike Tyson going on. Like,
I think the best I did was I made Dad play me all one night, and I finally beat him in one game.
Good man.
Yeah,
but you know what? The Unexplained Mysteries has got a forum, and the titles are so interesting, like The Green Men of Hollow Earth. But the Backgammon is quite a simple game. I could probably teach you it in about 5 minutes. So I'll have you as a guest on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I'll have to come on.
Yeah, and
maybe we could play drafts a bit.
Yeah, we can play drafts.
A bit of departure,
because the website supports drafts and chess. But the thing is, it's as I said in the previous stream, where I think Geralt, Skuggy, Kaptain were on. Geralt was playing chess against me, and we're both quite bad. He won, but he won all the pieces we had left. I had the king left. He had a queen and a king.
Yeah, drafts can be pretty brutal, especially when you leave one gap and then your opponent just like bang, 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 and about half of your fucking drafts are gone.
Yeah, that's it. It's one of those. It's games where if you can make another move, then you can go for it, can't you?
Yeah.
So you see, I like Backgammon because it's a game that doesn't require too much thought. I mean, there's a bit of strategy involved, but it's mostly about chance. And so it's a game you can play whilst having a chat. And
I think isn't drafts like noughts and crosses, where if you set it up right, then you kind of all right then.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
It depends who goes first and what move they make.
Yeah. I'm almost tempted to read this forum post out whilst we're. Go
on then, if it's interested, you read it out.
It might just be a schizo post, but anything with Hollow Earth interests me. So it says, "The Green Men of Hollow Earth," and this is by a mentee on the forum, and it's his first post and all. He says, "Studying the ancient Mesopotamian creation story, I came across some startling information that led me to draw following conclusions based off of knowledge of different stories in history. I was studying the Astrahasis, focusing on the part where they divide the world between Anu, Enlil, and Enki. Anu took the sky, while Enlil took the land for his, and Enki took the Apsu, and the place that bolt that binds the sea," whatever that means. "What interests me is the fact that Apsu is often referred to as the abyss or the deep or underground. on top, you that Astrahasis sends a message to Enki down through the waters to reach him, meaning this was also a place he was sending his message to. ... This guy likes his ...
Oh, he's a ... merchant, is he?
Yeah, these people with their, this is an important point ... What we have to realize before going any further, B and for are two words here. Before going any further is that these beings were highly advanced technological, and that through the story omits technological detail as to what vessel he used, message, Enki, but realized, the schizo posting is really bad. It's like, this story's too important for coherent grammar. He keeps...
You're going to have to chuck me a link, because I can't keep up with it by listening to it. It's starting to sound like white noise.
Put it this way, chat. We could put... I'll tell you what, my good friend Fremen on the Sand, he'll post the link for the chat, and then they can read it as well.
Oh, you're not... say something. Say something, I'll give you a spanner. Say hello or something, then I'll give you a spanner.
Yeah. My good friend Fremen on the Sand is not got the spanner, so I'm gonna... But he'll post the link on the thing, and you can read along with it. And
there you go.
Yeah. So hang on, wrong tab. I've got loads of tabs up. I don't normally have this many open. He says, so let's just skip to the thing. He says he's got this theory that Enki is the king of the deep. And then he says, now you might ask why bring this strange account up and what does it prove? Well, me being well-versed, I know of two people from the distant past that had green skin. The first Osiris, who I might remind you, king of the underworld. Another is creator god Ptah. I don't think it's...
Is this a companion piece to that other copy pasta you read the other week?
You know what? They're both coming from a schizophrenic mindset, so sure. I'm going to go with yes. This is, mind you, the king of the underworld. Another is creator called Ptah. I don't think it's a coincidence that Osiris has green skin, as well as these children did before they changed their.
To be fair to Osiris, wasn't he chopped up into little bits? So it is quite understandable he has green skin.
Yeah, I mean, his willy was never found, and Isis...
what about his head? Did they find his head? Because there must be a reason he had the head of a jackal. Because he was like a person, weren't he? Then he got chopped up. And then what did she do with him after she chopped him up?
Well, it was not Het. Was Horus that chopped him up? And
I thought it was his missus.
No, Isis put him back together again because there was 21 pieces, but the last bit, his member, couldn't be found. So that's why she said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll just make these obelisks, and the obelisks are to venerate Osiris's missing willy."
Oh, right. It says it was one of the first to be associated with the mummy rap. When his brother Set cut him up into pieces after killing him, Isis's wife found all the pieces and wrapped his body up. Osiris was at times considered the eldest son of the god Geb and the sky goddess Nut, as well as being brother and husband of Isis. Brother and husband? Oh, God. That's a bit Norfolk, isn't it? With Horus being considered his posthumously begotten son. It was also associated with the epithet Kenti Amentio, meaning the foremost of Westerners, a reference to his kingship in the land of the dead. Through syncretism with Iyar, he is also a god of the moon. Yeah. Oh, it says Osiris, Lord of the Dead and Rebirth. His green skin symbolises rebirth, so that's why he's green.
I wonder if there's any relation between that and the Green Man.
Could well be.
If there's a similar sort of purpose to it.
That's what we need to... I really want to do a thing on the Green Man, but we'll have to do some proper research on it.
Yeah, because I don't think you have the Green Man in...
Isn't the Green Man a little bit Christ-like as well, isn't he? I think.
I think it's something unique to English Christianity, because I asked my grandparents and cousins about it, and there's like, yeah, no, we haven't seen Green Man in French churches, so...
Because there's also the Woodwoes, which is very similar to the Green Man, isn't there?
Yeah. I'm reading this last paragraph, and I think even with the mangled English, it's still entertaining. It says, this is regarding to Osiris and the king of the underworld. Yeah. Him being king of the underworld, either which in ancient time a place that could actually be travelled to, ... What we fail to realise about these otherworldly god-seeming beings is that they're, again, using theirs in the place, not theirs in belonging to, is that their knowledge is infinite, and they some live for hundreds of thousands of years and are still here keeping us docile, while somewhere the ancient work that we were created for continues. ... I find it funny that they were doing population control even back then. ... Enlil ordered disease and famine to be dispersed.
Is ... used for dramatic effect? Is that what they're trying to do with this?
Yeah. Enlil ordered disease and famine to be dispersed into the human population, for they had grown loud. ... Sounds familiar, don't it? ...
Yes, it does. ...
The world. It continues. ... The world which we think we know isn't what the world is. ...
Oh,
they put
God.
A veil over. I know. They put a veil over our eyes early through THRU through school teaching us lies about. Through. Yeah, because he's in such a rush with all the ... he can't spell through correctly. Teacher eyes early through school teaching us... hang on. They put a veil over our eyes early through school, teaching us lies about the planet we live in, its composition. The guy uses lots of ... but he seems to be very... what's the word? Frugal with his commas.
My life, blue skins were British... My life also says, isn't St. George and the Dragon symbolic of female worship... i.e. is he cutting his cock off with the sword...
Oh, even in this sentence there's a ... It says they put a veil over our eyes early through school, teaching us that us lies about the planet we live, its composition, and even its inhabitants... But hey, what do I know? I'm just sipping sauce...
That's bad. That's bad.
It's I know. It's just the first reply to it is, "What movie is this? Sorry." But I mean, it's just like, okay, I was waiting for some like interesting thing of like the people from Middle Earth or Inner Earth are green, and all I just see is ...
Right. So new Ghost Hunters, whereas Grant Wilson, I'm not really interested in that because I don't think have you ever watched Ghost Hunters with Zach Bagans' Hobbit?
No,
it's kind of like an American version of what's it called? Most Haunted. Have you ever watched Most Haunted with Yvette Fielding?
Yeah, I've seen. Well, my dad used to watch Most Haunted, so when he had it on, I'd watch it. I watched an awful one where they literally someone from behind the camera threw a spoon, and then they kicked it down the stairs, and then they pretended someone had thrown, something mysterious had thrown the spoon. It was really bad. I mean, the thing is, right, can you think of one American adaptation of Saying English which has been better? I'm trying to think.
No, because did you ever see Life on Mars when the Yanks had a go at it?
Yeah, that's a show about like a bloke who's gone back in time to the 1970s, right?
Yeah, only it turns out that he hasn't. Spoilers from a show that's that old. He didn't really go back in time. He was dead, and it was the afterlife. It was basically like Lost, but about 70s cops.
Or like Dallas.
But in the Yankee, but in the Yankee version, they did. They were literally on a mission to Mars, and that was their dream.
Oh, that's... Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, someone the other day, Titus on Twitter, he was sort of complaining, saying about how people aren't picking up his Twin Peaks references.
Yeah.
And so I just sort of said, Twin Peaks was the fever dream Paul Atreides suffered whilst he was undergoing the spice agony, where he was in a coma for 4 weeks after drinking the water of life. But...
Were you a bit too meta for him there? Did you ruin his thread?
I don't know if I was or not. I was just I've been. I mean, if you've been on the JDLE Telegram, I've been in a funny mood. I was trying to give Chad Gold some sage advice, saying that he's not just a robot. He does need like love and emotions.
Do you think Chad Gold's a ghost because he keeps covering lesbians with ectoplasm, don't he?
It was a spooky ghost.
Spooky ghost. Oh, dear, it's South Park references today, then, is it?
Well, Top Cat says South Park did a perfect piss take of all these fake Nat Geo documentaries. Can't remember
I haven't watched South Park in so long. I think I hadn't watched it for ages. Then I watched the PC Principle series, which I quite enjoyed, but I haven't watched it since.
My three favourite episodes of South Park is Scott Tenorman Must Die. You know the one where
I thought the Inception one was a brilliant piss take of it.
Oh, okay. I didn't like Inception, so I mean, I watched it.
Yeah, that's why I thought. That's why I thought the thingy was ba 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 ba. The people are doing that all the time.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I like Scott Tenorman Must Die because I don't want to ruin the story for it, but suffice to say, Scott Tenorman in the 5th grade sells Cartman some of his pubes for $10, and Cartman thinks he's got a great deal.
Oh, do you remember Red Rocket? Do you remember Red Rocket with her wanking?
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. Wasn't that the one with sexual harassment Panda involved in it, or
isn't that why they call sexual harassment? No, or is that something else?
Oh, it might be another one, but I just think that so my second favourite episode is Woodland Critter Christmas. It's very, very wholesome.
Yeah, because they do the Red Rocket thing, then they call sexual harassment Panda in to teach the kids about sex, and they're all wearing condoms, aren't they?
Oh yeah, because they don't want to get diseases from the girls. Is that one of the episodes where Kenny dies because they stopped doing that bit in later? And I got annoyed.
No, I don't think it is because don't you remember they do the make a wish thing with Madonna standing outside and they say, "Do you want to meet Madonna, Madonna, Kenny?" And Kenny like says all this stuff about Madonna, doesn't he? So she don't go in.
I just like to think if that was one of the early episodes, I'm not sure if I'm imagining this or not, but Kenny dies when he puts the condom over his head, and I've probably got that wrong. But
no, I think Kenny dies, but then Kenny comes back, doesn't he?
Top Cat says Imagination Land and The Losing Edge.
Oh, fun fact! I know a fun fact about Imagination Land. Imagination Land was supposed to be the second South Park movie.
Yeah. And he says, and The Losing Edge, where Randy fights at baseball matches. But just to quickly do my free one. So we got Woodland Critter Christmas. And my favourite episode of all time is City Sushi.
City Sushi.
Where there's... where the
in Shittipa Town.
Yeah, in Shittipa Town, there's a new sushi place. And it's an interesting episode. So let's put it that way. But... hey, here's a thing. My life, he says in the chat, he says, see, Vinny's got Ralphie on at 8. So it's like, this isn't Vinny's struggle, is it?
No, that's Vinny Sullivan.
I was going to say, I mean, if it was Vinny's struggle interviewing Ralph, that would be an interesting interview.
Yeah.
I would have to be like, I'm sorry, I can only be on this show for the first hour. I have to listen to this.
Getting Ralph to rap with him.
Oh... I was like, would you smash a samosa?
One of my favourites. I do quite like the Biggie Smalls one.
Biggie, oh yeah.
When you say Biggie Smalls 5 times in the mirror, I like that because I like the getting it back to kind of paranormal and serial killers and stuff. The Three Stooges bit with 3 serial killers.
Wait, what was that one?
That's the same one when they got to make the Ferrari birthday cake because the devil's coming to Earth, isn't he? And everyone's invited, and John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy, and I can't remember who the third one. Who's the third one?
Oh, I don't remember, but I do remember those two.
They have to make the birthday cake for the devil, but they kill the chef, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I remember that. And then just like one knocks a plank over and he falls into the batter.
Yeah.
Mm.
I do quite like that, but I like it for the Three Stooges bit because it just makes me laugh that they kind of like they get the serial killers to do the Three Stooges bit.
No, this is something which is up my alley. So the headline here, it says mysterious inscribed cubes discovered in river. I mean, I'm a bit of a cubist myself, so I
go on then, Hobbit.
Yeah.
Read it out and tell me what you think of it.
So I'll put the link in the chat so the audience can have a look at this picture and make of the symbols what they are. They look a bit like numbers to me. So a magnet fisherman in England has reeled in a haul of 60 lead cubes inscribed with
Did
strange
you catch
symbols.
many magnets?
Well, this is the thing. He's fishing for magnets. He's
brothers is just saying hi. Sorry about that.
Hey, evening, Stash. We're flagging for a bit of content.
Long live the Queen. That's what...
Exactly.
Yeah, there we go.
So, Stash, in the side chat, what we're doing, we're just talking a bit about some headlines from Unexplained Mysteries.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll get into some content.
Let me copy this link, and then you can have it in the private.
I've already done it.
So
it's in the side chat.
Thank you. No, you've posted search. You haven't posted the one about
that's the front page.
Oh yeah. Well, the one I'm reading out, Stash, is about mysterious inscribed. These are lead cubes. They look like Sudoku dice, I want to say. They've got like 9 numbers on them in the grid pattern on each of the faces. So he says, we were out magnet fishing as our daily activity in lockdown. Oh, no, sorry. Let me read the first paragraph.
Right. So magnet fishing, also called magnetic fishing, is searching in outdoor waters for ferromagnetic objects available to pull with a strong neodymium magnet.
Neodymium magnet.
The Hobbit has been adopted by celebrities such as the English rugby player James Haskell. The hobby is a combination of environmentalism and treasure hunting.
Oh, hobby, because I thought you said Hobbit has been adopted by celebrities.
You've been adopted by James Haskell, have you?
Well, this is news to me. I don't even know who James Haskell is.
It's thought magnet fishing was initially started by boaters using magnets to recover fallen keys from the water.
Yeah, that's an interesting hobby.
But
the thing about this is...
I haven't finished yet. Magnet fishing is subject to local regulations concerning outdoor waters. It is illegal and punishable by a £25 fine to magnet fish or remove any material from a canal, or inland navigation under the control of the Canal River Trust of England and Wales. There you go.
I suppose when that fine was initially issued, £25 was significant, but I think to myself, that's almost like... Yeah, I'll pay the fine so I can engage in my hobby.
It says here. So the trust spokesperson Fran Reed stated, magnet fishing can have its dangers and consequently is expressly prohibited by the trust. One such incident reported by ITV Central involved a child pulling a sawn-off shotgun out of the Titford Canal in Oldbury, West Midlands.
Excellent.
Oh shoot! Can I ask Hobbit about the coincidence thing for a second, or is that way out of line?
What we do is we have a little chat about the headlines and we get into some content.
Oh, sorry, guys.
By all means, you can ask me about coincidences, but I want to read this story because it's fairly interesting. I mean, for a start, these cubes are lead, so how does a magnet pick up lead? But he says, Will Reed had been magnet fishing with his 2 young sons in the River Sow in South Coventry when he found what he initially thought to be random junk. But actually, it turned about the haul of 60 small lead cube-shaped blocks inscribed with a variety of patterns and symbols. We were out magnet fishing as our daily activity in lockdown, and we were at a relatively isolated spot, he told the contract. Yeah, so we do all the bits there. At first, we found keys and pennies and other bits and bobs, and then we looked down and we saw what we thought were tiles. I was live streamed to friends on Facebook, and I bent down and started picking them up. I also thought they might be rocks. I showed them to the camera, and as I looked back, more and more kept appearing. The cubes are tiny, small enough to hold between the finger and thumb, and weighed 125 grams each. That's about 5 ounces. No, hang on. An ounce is 28 grams, so that's 5 ounces. The symbols on them appear to be some form of Sanskrit. Curious to know more, Reed posted photographs of his discovery up on social media. There were all sorts of stories flying around at first. The cubes really captured people's imaginations, he said. What I learned is that they are Indian in origin, and they show incantations for prayers which take effect when they are thrown in running water. Exactly how old the cubes are, however, continues to remain a mystery. Dun dun dun. There we go.
What do you reckon then, Hobbit? Wind up?
Well, I mean, if Brutus was our guest, I could say, have you ever heard of prayer cubes? Because I've heard of prayer wheels. Actually, that's a Buddhist idea, but I've written the Lord's Prayer and I saved it as a text file and I put it on my hard drive. So whenever it spins up at whatever speed it does, like 5,000 revs a minute, that means it's sending out 5,000 Lord's Prayers a minute.
Did you want to do how the coronavirus has impacted Bigfoot?
Yeah, okay, let's do that. Let's get into coincidences because.
No, I do have one more. I want to do about the most constipated lizard because that'll be a funny one.
Okay. Where's this Bigfoot's affected by the?
It's on the same. It's on the front page. With most people remaining indoors, cryptozoological pursuits have also undergone some changes. While the impact of coronavirus epidemic on businesses, tourism, sport, many other areas has become all too apparent in recent months, though those whose interests and even livelihoods centre around an altogether more unorthodox customer have not received quite as much attention. Across the United States, there are many people who rely on Bigfoot one way or another for their income, whether that be through conference bookings, museum tickets or gift shop sales. Many of these, like in other areas of employment, have seen their profits drop significantly. It's just about people making money off of Bigfoot. I'm getting word out. The rest, most of it's quite boring. Where is it? I'm getting word out to my fellow investigators. Try to wear your mask when you're out there in the bush, said Sasquatch researchers Thomas Seward. Try and get close interaction right now, not until the pandemic runs its course.
The bit I like is right at the end. He says, "One thing's for sure, Bigfoot is certainly no stranger to social distancing."
Yeah.
There's one more I want to do before I do the lizard. Guinness has crowned the new world's shortest man. Edward Nino Hernandez of Colombia has been officially recognised as the shortest man on Earth, standing a mere 72.10 centimetres tall. Edward, who is 34, is shorter than most 2-year-olds. So they think it might be hypothyroidism that's caused it. So he's even shorter than a sitting dog.
Wow, I mean that says something. Yeah, I know. Like in there was that thing they were saying, it was the Zika virus in Mexico, where you got all these kids being born with caved-in skulls, and they say they get those sort of birth defects in India as well. And I'm told it's because of fecal contamination in the water and the air. Like Mexico City has a brown smog around it from open sewerage.
Speaking of open sewerage, meet the world's most constipated lizard. Researchers have found a lizard with such an extreme case of constipation that its weight is 80% feces. Jesus Christ, I mean, could you imagine that if you were 80% feces?
I mean, it's like the stock photograph, one of Henry Kissinger or...
Oh dear. He said, I was concerned unless I was careful, I might pop it, said scientist Edward Stanley. I was blown away by how little room there was left for all the other organs. It only has a tiny space left over in its rib cage for heart, lungs and liver. After weighing and scanning the animal, it turned out the mass inside of it constitutes 78.5% of his entire body weight. According to Claunch, this is in fact the largest feces to body mass ratio ever recorded in a living animal.
I don't know. I've met some people that are full of shit.
Yeah, but this isn't very good because in the end it says, sadly, due to the lizard's unfortunate situation, there was no choice but to humanely euthanize it.
I mean, I'm looking at stuff like that, and I'm thinking, did they ever say what was the cause of constipation? Was it too much turkey Twizzlers, or the other stuff Jamie Oliver disliked?
Surely the humanity thing is to be a stamp on it, so it bursts like.
Oh,
like
I mean, there is a temptation, but the smell of that would just be awful.
Oh dear, an exploding shit lizard.
Oh yeah. So yeah, coincidences.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you guys were Hobbit was talking about the Akashic field and stuff, and I always think about synchronicity stuff, coincidences that happen. The trouble is, I mean, the line between that and being crazy or losing focus is probably blurry and stuff. And if I'm making any sense, but it's like people say these cliche things like "be careful what you wish for," but it like comes up. So like people who are on a train wreck. I guess their life is kind of dull, but I mean they stay focused. But weird people, perhaps like me, it's like I don't know. You're open to that stuff, so it just sort of occurs.
You become sensitive to it.
Yeah. I mean, especially it's like I remember that show in England that I went nuts over. It was Dempsey and Makepeace, right? With the beautiful
Glenys.
It was nuts over
Glenys Barber.
Oh, she's fantastic, huh?
Yeah.
And so I was focused on that, and then it's like they had this stuff that had occurred in my life, and I guess because that's what I asked for. It was just weird, I was just it came out kind of like I don't know if you've seen some of my video. I have some obscure stuff, but it had to do with like theft of technology transfer or whatever. I don't know if you see the first episode. They put the stuff for the Soviets in the caviar or whatever, and that that sort of came true in my life, which was really weird. And that's how I got the whole Stash name and everything. It's just great. And then one of the creepiest thing though is I was listening to that Coast to Coast show, and this dude was talking about he was an expert on he was into synchronicity, and the other thing is you can get fooled too, like like, oh yeah, that's a message, And
what, you go a false positive.
Yeah, maybe like a false, or maybe some. I don't want to say malevolent, but maybe some type of force is leading you, to. I don't know if that's possible too, or.
Well, I mean, one of the things today, which it's been a long time since I've paid attention to my dreams. I try to forget them because otherwise, the more I remember dreams, the more likely I am to dream and then not sleep very well. But I keep dreaming about Alex Jones, and I'm not gonna listen to his show because 4 hours is a bit too much for me, especially when he gets to shouting. But I get dreams where I'm like, he says, "I'm going to teach you how to do a proper Texan barbecue." And I said, "Okay, I'll teach you how to do a proper fry up." Full English. And the funny thing is like I saw him and I was just like, hey, this isn't the first time. And it's like when I say it's semi-lucid, these dreams, because it's like, this isn't the first time I've dreamt about you either. It's just, never mind that. Come on, I'm going to teach you how to do barbecue.
Oh, that's what do you figure it means? Like you're exchanging information with him, or you're telling him that he's full of it or something, or?
I think it'd be nice if, I mean, he's too much of a Billy Big Bollocks to associate with the likes of people like us, and plus, I think due to his choices in family, he wouldn't be too sympathetic to our message. But he's the sort of man which if the racism didn't come up, I'd probably have a good conversation with him. I think if you managed to get him in private and calm, if you could get Alex Jones calm, it'd be a good bloke to talk with.
Right.
I mean, I've seen him on the Joe Rogan thing when he was talking about this stuff, and he's one into the woo-woo, but he just knows that he has to keep a lid on it.
It wasn't that wild because I guess the Bohemian Grove thing was the thing that tintillated the masses, and it's like that Ronson guy, John Ronson, is there with them, and I've heard from people that it's not exactly such a big deal as he made it out to be. Although it is the Grove, and it definitely is magic, but yet it's just something that the wealthy people do, and it was very. I'm sure there's something benevolent about it, but at the same time, he just went on the bus there with his girlfriend and John Ronson, and they filmed the cremation of care thing, whatever. It's brilliant,
Nixon's,
but
yeah.
Wasn't Bohemian Grove the thing that Nixon said was the faggiest goddamn thing I ever saw?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nixon is hilarious.
Sometimes I think that Nixon was unfairly vilified because in comparison to what some other presidents have done, he wasn't that heinous. I think it's just because he wasn't going to associate with the gay mafia that they ousted him.
I've heard that he was interested in getting off the Fed system into another form.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, because I mean, do you think all that recording equipment got ripped out and everyone said, "Oh, that's horrific. We can't possibly ever do anything like that again." Of course, it's still in use today, isn't it?
I don't know. It's his tapes are the most hilarious things. I mean, but yeah, they're cutting our cocks. It's weird stuff like that. All in the Family makes the wasp look dumb or whatever. He's awesome. I hope he's still alive out there somewhere. But Valerie Plame, the blown CIA operative, her husband is in the downtown Grove, like in San Fran, a building, a structure, the housing thing, or whatever. I don't know. She's running for Congress now or something, but yeah. I mean, Alex, he is brilliant, and Joe Rogan is brilliant, and it's they've got the stage, and other people we just watch it or not. But
I like the. Have you ever seen the 4chan post where they're comparing Joe Rogan to like a barbarian king? It's like cool. It's Grug not understand. Grug have Sky Man tell me about sky and stars, and then it gets another guest on, and the other guest will say something else, and it's like, you wise man, but other wise man I had on last week say that not so. Grug not sure which one real. I do. I like Joe Rogan because he will have these people on, even when certain, people say, "Oh no, you shouldn't talk with him," and it's like, "Grug not understand why. Grug wants more informed opinion. Grug have controversial figure on."
He is great, and he does. The MMA thing is fascinating. It's all. But it's a little too much sometimes, like.
Well, all I knew was Alex Jones was friends with him, and he presented Fear Factor. So he's been on the Alex Jones show a couple of times, and yeah.
Have you seen that Alex Jones is really Bill Hicks?
Yeah, I have heard it, and it's like they said, "Oh well, Bill Hicks was from Texas. Alex Jones is from Texas, and Alex Jones knows Bill Hicks' producer. Therefore, he is Bill Hicks." I mean, it's like when people like Hemi say, "Oh, Fremen on the Sand is you, Hobbit." I'm like, no, it's not. It's just a good friend of mine.
I can't. The David Icke guy. I think. I remember everybody being into that. I mean, that was incredible. The lizard thing. On one hand, you're like, "Oh my god, it's just They Live," and it's Star Trek. Or
well,
actually, there was
the lizard thing is.
Guy.
Do you remember V, the TV series?
I was just going to say V.
Yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was inspired by, the lizard people thing, wasn't it?
But you could. I don't know about you guys, but you couldn't help it. It was like porno. Like you. Yeah, I want to read it. Remember that? He was like, I haven't seen it personally, but I have friends who've seen Bush fucking shapeshift.
Have you seen the YouTube videos of people glitching? Have you seen that one? They say it's the holographic cloaking glitching. Have you seen those videos, Stash?
Of like individuals with
TV presenters and things like that. There's the video goes like pixelated, and they'll say, "Ah, look, it's their cloaking breaking down or having a glitch or something."
I love it. I love the idea of it. I don't even care if it's fake.
There's that really weird one. Have you seen that one where the woman adjusts her dress, and you can see something strapped to her leg, and then like her face goes pixelated, so they go, "Look, there you go, look." That's the one.
Oh, if you got a link for that, I got to check that out.
I'll have to see if I can find that one. You guys carry on talking. I'll see if I can find it.
I do want to do a slight correction there. David Icke has seen a shapeshifter once. Ted Heath changed it in front of his very eyes, and he's just completely black eyes and scanning him up and down like he was cattle to the slaughter. And he says he's never had someone stare at him like that before. Just like Ted Heath was looking completely through him.
That's interesting.
Hmm.
Well, you know, the indigenous peoples, the native peoples, all this stuff and voodoo and on and on and on. I mean, they're sensitive and they see stuff. So it's, you know, I wouldn't put anybody down. I mean, you know, I don't have enough chi to really see them, but I wouldn't make fun of somebody if they're into it. You know, I don't like. I mean, even if it's all bullshit, I'm never comfortable with the fact that somebody just really gives somebody a hard time of what they're reading, or whatever. If they're not harming anybody, I just don't like that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I can say is I'm critical of some people's delivery. I mean, before you were on, we were looking on the Unexplained Mysteries website, and we do our introduction with that with some stories from there. Before we get into the real meat of whatever our episode's going to be about. And I saw this forum topic, and of course it caught my eye because it was saying the green men of the underworld or Hollow Earth. And the guy that was posting it was very fond of ending his sentences with ... and not using commas or using correct spellings. And I just got annoyed because the further I got into it, the less I saw of any substance of anything really useful, and the more I just thought, yeah, I'm annoyed with this. So I'm, but at the same time, I'm not critical of it because I am interested in this stuff. I wouldn't click on it if I wasn't.
Right.
So in regards to David Icke, I mean, the one thing which sort of gets me, and it's just like, you know what, I think that's a bit of paranoia on their behalf, is you had these Jewish interest groups, and they were sort of saying, David Icke is claiming that shape-changing reptilians from planet Sirius is actually an anti-Semitic canard. And I'm like, come again? How? He's saying shape-changing lizards. He's not talking about the Jews. But according to them, there's like, no, he's using it as clever code language. And I thought, that seems a bit far-fetched to me. Although he later has gone on various shows and saying that, no, it's a mind virus Zionism, and that there's plenty of shapeshifters that have infiltrated the Jews, but that's, you know, they're the victims of this. And I'm like, all right, okay. Because I think what happened is just in his research, because with all conspiracy theories, there has to be a bit of like investigations into criminal malfeasance and the sort of nasty shenanigans that world leaders are up to. And certain names keep cropping up again and again, like Henry Kissinger. And you just got to go, oh yeah, this guy's a bit notorious, isn't he?
Well, people have to rap about this stuff because I don't know if you guys got the same situation over here, but it's and I don't know. I tend to traffic in a little paranoia, but it's looking almost like in the States, it's just grinding into some kind of civil war or balkanization thing. And I don't know if you guys got that there. It's just people have to be able to talk, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it looks to me as if the media is really trying to drum up a race war. I mean, it's I don't see how they're going to de-escalate the situation. I mean, if they made some concerted effort to make some propaganda to de-escalate the situation, that could work. But there really needs to be some sort of redress of grievances. I don't think they're doing it so much in this country or Europe, but we have our own problems with that, with this thing. Oh, here's an example for you. I was driving around today. I got absolutely stir crazy staying indoors, so I just went and had a drive, and I saw this flag, and it was a rainbow flag, and I thought, what's that symbol in the middle? Is that a swastika? And is it sort of flapping in the wind? It's like, no, it's the NHS on the rainbow flag. And I thought, yeah, right. And I know this house as well, because this is the house which, prior to that, used to have an EU flag on it. I just thought to myself, not that I'd ever do such a thing, but if kids were to throw eggs at that during Halloween, I would laugh at such a situation.
Ah,
yeah, it's just, I mean,
that's crazy.
I don't know about you, but I mean, in this country, it seems very much like bad form to advertise your politics and to start having like EU or other countries' flags on it. The only one which doesn't bother me is someone who's got a Union flag. I mean, that's all right, but otherwise, it's. I mean, even the Cross of St. George, it's sort of, you're still advertising something. Although I'm far more sympathetic to the people with the Cross of St. George than the other flags. But when you get these tosses with the EU flags and stuff like that, I'm just like, especially in the area it was quite an affluent area. I'm just like, yeah, you're preaching to the converted. You can get away with doing that, and that's annoying. But
it is so weird when it's like in your face. Do you know that big trading house, Fidelity Investments and everything? I was a peon for them years ago. And their thing is literally the all-seeing eye. It's just a massive all-seeing eye.
Yeah, I noticed that. I mean, like, for example, my friends at Nobody Has the .biz have set up an audio sharing service, and the idea is that you can upload podcasts onto it and music. So I've put my music on there as well as on my YouTube channel, and that's called audio.nobodyhasthe.biz. And it's... When I was on there, I couldn't upload using Firefox. It wasn't working. So I uploaded with Chrome, and I was just like, hey, that logo's 666. It's got a circle, and it's got these spokes coming out. It's like, yeah, that's 666 in the triangle formation. And the other day, I wanted to do some video editing. Yesterday, that was. So I used Blender, as that's open source. Their logo's 666. CERN's a 666.
It's real that wow.
Yeah, and it just, after a while, when you get sensitive to these things, you just sort of see it everywhere. And I was like, why does Blender, a free open source program, have to have a 666 in its logo? I don't want to use. Well, I don't think I will be using it anymore because the user interface is a bit clunky, and I don't like it. So I'm going to use an alternative, but. I want to get this on to coincidences because that is the subject of it. And I'd like to start off with my dad was in the south of France, and there was this guy in the village. Would it be Doxy if I say his name?
No, if it's Marcel or something.
Yeah, his first name was Lawrence. There we go. So it's Lawrence, and he was, I think, what you'd describe as a peasant. He had his own chickens, and he'd grow corn for the chickens rather than buying it. And most of my family sort of regarded him like most do as peasants, like, oh, he's a peasant, therefore he's thick. So my dad was talking to him, and he was learning French at the time, and he says, you know, you lose a lot of stuff in English. And he says, well, what do you mean by that? He says, well, you get your words from French. Take, for example, the word coincidence. He says, well, what do you think it means? He says, oh, it's when two things happen at the same time. He says, well, in French, coincidence means coincidence. When you get into a room and you've got a corner, we call that a coin. A corner is a coin. And so a coincidence is coincidence, and it's the incidences of two corners. No, I'm saying that wrong. The incidence of two lines makes a corner. So it's just when these two things line up, because we use it in a dismissive way in English, whereas in the French it's just it makes I think it has a very different meaning, because when you're thinking of two lines intersecting, it's just like, yes, that's where these two things which weren't otherwise related have now intersected, and you've got a coincidence.
Oh.
So
that's
I thought we could start off the discussion of the word itself from a French peasant who sadly is dead. Well, he died of old age, so he had a good innings. I think he lived to about 90 or something, and I miss that guy. Got on very well with him.
That's Aleister Crowley said he always had his etymology dictionary with,
Etymology is important. I mean, you got to understand these spellings. You've got to know what's the meaning behind them and what's the story behind them is.
And how much stuff do they organize? Like all the streets. I even think the streets. The Masonic stuff, like in Washington, probably London. I mean, I wonder how much detail there is. Is it the street names, how it's set up, the ley lines?
Oh yeah.
Talking to Hemi about that. Like, I mean, the energy in the Piccadilly Circus and the energy in Times Square. Very strong.
I've not been to either of those things. I might have been to Piccadilly Circus, past it once, but I remember my friend and I, this was when David Icke was doing his Wembley thing, and we had a drive through the city of London, and I said, hey, do you fancy playing Spot the Symbol? So we were just sort of trundling along looking at things, and we saw all these gargoyles and demonic shapes, and it's absolutely jam-packed with the cultic meaning in that. Is it a square mile, the city of London?
No, the square mile. The square mile is something else. The square mile is the financial district.
Oh, okay. So City of London, yeah.
So it's literally London. The city of London is something separate.
It's a separate country, but there's no passport control in it. You just go straight in. Yeah.
Subject
like
has its own police force, and it has its own rules as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the language too, like when you say on the level, that's Masonic, right? Or blackballed or scapegoat.
Well, I always when I listen to like BBC, like any kind of like mainstream media news, I listen very carefully to the language they use, because they're very deliberate with their language, aren't they? They tell you what's really going on if you understand why they're choosing the words they're using. They kind of it's almost like a secret code you're listening to, isn't it?
Wasn't there quite an obvious example that recently, when there was a report saying, and it was deaths with, not deaths from, the demonetization virus? Not that we get demonetized, but I think it's good habit not to refer to it by its official parlance.
I don't think I'm exactly off topic about going to this, because I think that what they're doing is they're trying to force coincidence with their will and different actions, That's like the essence of the whole magic thing, if you will, That's what I feel. There's certain actions on all the words. It seems to other people like, oh no, there's no coincidence. Okay, or people are like, no, that's impossible. But that sometimes it just is what it is, Yeah.
I mean, they are trying to shape reality to what they are, and I'd say the biggest tool in their magic toolbox is the news media. It's something I try to avoid, and there was an advert that was on earlier I was going to talk about, and I can't remember what it was. Oh, that was it. I think it was for one of the banks or something, and no, or it was a bank or a supermarket, and they had all these different voices saying part of the script, and then right at the end of it, they were saying together, and because all the voices were overlapping, it sounded a bit like the Borg, and I just found it incredibly disturbing. Actually, more so disturbing than the Borg, because I mean, with the Borg, it was just like an exciting space monster. But with this one, it's like, oh no, this is real. This is a real thing, and I don't find these adverts reassuring because they say together we'll get through this for together, and they're and it's just like they're using reassuring words, but the tone and everything, it's just. I mean, I tell you what, it thought occurred to me today. I've been there's a channel on YouTube called June Novel Cut, and it's the Alan Smithy version of David Lynch's Dune, and it's re-edited in such a way so it tells parts from the story, and I thought it was quite good. I've been listening to the music which goes with it, and I tell you what, I thought to myself, if the Bible and Jesus' story had the same sort of soundtrack to it, or something equally as grandiose, I would be as interested in the story of Jesus as I am in the story of Paul Atreides.
Oh yeah. It's a Muslim eschatology in that film, to my mind.
Yeah, well, you know,
right?
there's the jihad and all that, and
Jihad.
Yeah, and he becomes the Kwisatz Haderach, as they say. You know, plenty of Arabic-inspired things, and Brutus, he did a thing about it. He says that, well, back in the 60s with the flower power and the drugs and stuff, it was very popular because it was bang on for the. I suppose it was a zeitgeist of its time. That's the correct word for it, isn't it? It's you know, it's got this romanticized version of the Middle East, deserts, ecology, and drugs. So it's got everything which a child of the 60s could want. Yeah. But my point about that is just the music in Dune is brilliant. I mean, it really is. And the music in Lord of the Rings is good too. So I think it really does do something to set the tone. And maybe it's I'm sensitive to this sort of stuff because I'm training myself to be. I was an aspiring SoundCloud rapper. I like to joke about that. You know, I listen to music and just go, oh, that's interesting. What are they doing there? So I teach myself music theory as I hear things.
Have you heard the soundtrack to Mr. Robot?
Oh yeah, that's the one with the weird-looking guy in it. He's an Egyptian.
They're
Rabbi
actually
Malek?
wearing masks on the New York subway on that show. It looks like now. And they have a date. They say it's 5/9. There's like this cyber attack that they do, kind of like the Stuxnet thing. If you haven't seen the Mr. Robot thing, it's like tremendous and actually horrifying series.
Oh yeah, I mean it does a good portrayal of schizophrenia and how difficult it is to sort of trust, you know, what's real and not.
Oh, totally. But and I was telling a friend of mine, but without the soundtrack, it just wouldn't work. You know, it's all the soundtrack is like, you know, like Blade Runner, the old one.
Yeah. I mean, Blade Runner 2 hasn't left much of an impression on me because the soundtrack just sounds like I would say like an empty shell of Vangelis's work, and it doesn't have the charm that the original does. Because, I mean, there's that brilliant bit in the opening scene where it's got the low rumble and it's got this little, what I want to describe almost like a metallic, jingly glass harp, where it's just got this little strum and
oh yeah.
And the thing about Vangelis is, my uncle was it was either my uncle or my dad. He was telling me, he says, "Oh, you know, Vangelis got accused of copying someone's music or plagiarism." And he said, "You know, I got around us." No, he says, "Oh, his defense was, I can't read music."
No way.
Yeah, and I just
he didn't inhale.
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, I always thought Vangelis was classically trained because I'm like, the guy understands music well enough. You know, he's doing the right things. I love his comps. I need to go listen to some of his music after this.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Sorry if I take things off. I was thinking, you know how you were talking about how the square mile in London is a thing, and it's like I got to know, unfortunately, about like Liechtenstein.
Oh, that
freaking
rich country.
You don't. I didn't know. I was so stupid. I was working for this guy, and like I didn't know. Oh, you don't have to put your real name on the registry or whatever. All this hilarious things like that. And it's like every day I just think about Liechtenstein. And I went. It's like it says in the tour guide, this place is not friendly. Because if you go and say hi to somebody, they think like you're an IRS agent from America or something.
Mhm.
It's like.
Right. That explain. Yeah, because I was in Austria and I was just like I was looking at their borders. It's like, oh, that's where Liechtenstein is, and it's like, no, it's actually pronounced blah blah blah. I can't pronounce it like that. I was like, hey, look, I says it how I sees it. It looks like Liechtenstein to me. You've got a lich at the beginning and then an N and a Stein. But it's
London has that kind of thing, right? Like it's got this like pure thing, this image in it, but it's a giant, trading city too, right? I don't know. It's like
yeah, it's the world capital for finance, and what is it? Is it you got Washington DC, Vatican City, and City of London, and they're supposed to be like the triangle of the new world order. That's what I heard.
Have you heard? I read this cool book. That there's a giant zodiac at the Boston Public Library, and then a giant one at the big train station in New York. Like you look on the thing, and I was wondering, you guys do you have like a zodiac in some building there or something that they?
Well, the only place I can think where there might be a zodiac would be in the Greenwich observatory. I've never been there myself. I've been meaning to. But the Greenwich meridian point and the observatory near it is a fascinating place. I mean, it is on ley lines, and I want to go dowsing there at some point, maybe when all this excitement is over. Yeah.
Dowsing, that's interesting. Have you ever heard the Twilight language word for Greenwich? I guess is Greenwich. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when you look how it's spelled, it's Greenwich or Greenwich. It's yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I'm reading the chat. And my life, he says to you, he says, Stash, look out for large modern sculptures in public places. You'll see 4 of it and the 3 of it. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Oh, let me look in. Let me see.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the 4 of it and the 3 of it means. So
which guy's saying it?
My
life in the
Sounds
YouTube
great.
chat.
If you can hear it, my life. If you can hear us, my life, just can you clarify that?
Yeah, because I'm wondering what that's about as well. I'm interested in those sort of things because I mean these days
saying that of modern statues they make 3.
Well, I'll copy what he's written verbatim, and then you can have it in the private chat. But he says
because we got the Cleopatra's Needle behind the Metropolitan Art Museum in New York, and I've heard weird things like it lines up somehow with an important one in London. That's featured in the From Hell movie, right?
I never watched that film. The title spooked me out.
From Hell, yeah, because it's from one of Jack the Ripper's letters, isn't it? It's the From Hell letter. It's called.
Done by Alan Moore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say it's an Alan Moore thing. It's because I read Swamp Thing and I thought Watchmen was one of the most Has there been a more thought-provoking story than Watchmen? It's strange. I say it's thought-provoking, and now I can't remember any significant parts about it. Well, maybe I'll have to reread it at some point.
I thought it was very dark.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it certainly is dark. But there just seems something about it where it's just like, this is a really good story. I like this story. It's interesting. But Yeah, I'll have to reread it at some point. See if I can figure out what I thought was so thought-provoking about it. Maybe I'll even do a review on that. But yeah, coincidence. I mean, there was this plan after the Great Fire of London to rebuild London into all sorts of strange. But what's his name? Christopher Wren.
Yeah, he did the St Paul's Cathedral, didn't he? Christopher Wren.
Yeah, because there was he had this plans, and they said no, we don't fancy that, but we'll enact some of your plans.
Right, so my life says, yeah, it's the zodiac. Fire, water, wind, and earth equals 4. Cardinal, mutable, and fixed equals 3.
Is he doing like Kabbalah numerology there?
No, I think because he says fire, water, wind, and earth is 4. So if there's a 4, that's what they're representing. So if it's cardinal, mutable, and fixed, he's 3. So it's what they're telling you with the numbers they're using.
Sacred geometry and Kabbalah, to my mind.
Where are you on? Are you much of a ripperologist, Stash? So I got a question in chat. Do you think the royal family were connected to Jack the Ripper?
I've heard that. I heard that it was I've heard one that it was a pimp. That he was actually a black guy, which is weird. And then they said it was a Polish dentist.
Yeah.
And that it could have been to do with the crown, and they were covering up. That's that from hell, is that that it was the crown covering up.
Yeah. So have you heard this one, Hobbit? That because I think it was one of the princes had got a whore pregnant. Basically, what they did was they killed a load of prostitutes in order to just kill the one that was pregnant.
Yeah, that was the thing. I have read from Hal then, because it was the implication was that a member of the royal family was Jack the Ripper, and so when the police found out who it was, they were just like, "Oh, okay, we served the crown, so carry on. Then can't arrest you."
One of the more interesting ones I heard about was they were saying it was 3 guys doing it. So, like, at any one time, like, one of these guys had an alibi, so that's how they got away with it.
No, it was swamp gas from Venus. That's what did it.
Yeah, ball lightning.
It's ball lightning.
Yeah.
It has some psychodrama stuff that's similar to the Son of Sam, of that they were scaring people, like Wicca, the Wicca Man, Wicca King, Wicca. Because Jack the Ripper wrote letters, right? So did Sam.
Do you think it's possible that Berkowitz was just a patsy then?
Yeah, definitely. I think he had some assistance to achieve what he did. I've read some interesting stuff that some of these serial killers have verified information about other. There's a couple of books. I guess one being Michael Hoffman's Secret Societies and Psychological Warfare, and another one that I forget, and another one basically that they had encountered each other. My thing in all these, I don't like any of this lurid stuff, and sometimes my mind always goes that there's a purpose. Like the military is interested in these guys, and not all of them. Some, probably most of them are just people, but he was saying how the very name serial killer is derived by the media and the FBI itself. Like, they named the Unabomber, and serial killer is like, it's fertility and anti-fertility magic, and
yeah, because it seems strange to call a mass murderer a serial killer. It's just that.
Yeah.
Why say that?
Well, they do it. They do it in series, don't they? They do it in series, so I think that's probably why they call it serial in that way. But there's also, like you say, I could understand the military being interested, because if you could apply the tactics of a serial killer to like a foreign agent or something like that, you could probably you know, it could be used in kind of guerrilla type warfare, couldn't it, in foreign countries?
Oh yeah, and you're looking for the best. Like my father was in the military, and he said, hey, in the war, you want a guy like Tim McVeigh, he's a killer, but
Yeah,
not in the civilian times.
yeah. Or even
Oh,
like Jack the Ripper. I mean, if you could if you could drop Jack the Ripper into a foreign country and have him killing women, it'd be like a psychological tactic, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I've wondered also 1888. The empire was in full steam, but there was the people having trouble. They were poor, right? So, what better way to kind of shut people up, but by this new form, because he's the original serial killer, right? The one that had that aesthetic, the fear that gave the people, because that's my understanding that it was tough times at that time. So you just scare people,
Well,
out of
also it kept women off the streets and things like that, didn't it, as well?
It did. Oh yeah, I've
so
been to
you're
that London Dungeon place there, which is like a tourist. They scare you.
Yeah.
so you're telling me Jack the Ripper was in fact trying to patrol
It
Fots?
was the original thought patroller.
They show that Masonic ceremony in that From Hell movie and stuff, and it definitely had the higher politics in with it. It's like Johnny Depp was really good in that too.
I need to watch that film again. I barely remember it, but the story makes sense. Speaking of patrol, I'm gonna get up and check on my cooking. I've got some bolognese sauce cooking in the slow cooker, and
Bubbling away.
yeah, I want to poke it with a stick, see if it's edible yet.
No problem. So, what else? So we're talking about. So you think Jack the Ripper's more closely related to the Son of Sam in methodology then?
I think that there was something going on with that. Yeah, that it's to my mind, these things are all political because even then, it's still the newspapers are the one who do it, and the authorities decide that it will get out there, and they could have chosen to downplay it.
Well, there's also then again it's the same thing, isn't it? It's clearing people off the streets. Was there some like nefarious reason they wanted people off the street?
Right, yeah, and it somehow changes the direction of society. Like they scared and sometimes in that Secret Society's book, it was at the same time where the Wicca Man movie was playing.
Mm. But the old horror films were all morality tales, weren't they? I mean, horror films are a lot different now, but back then they were morality. Even like Friday the 13th was a morality tale. If you did drugs or had sex outside of wedlock, you were a goner, weren't you?
Very true. Yeah. Oh, now it's changing to the point where the different monsters and stuff and demons or whatever are good or neutral
or they're kind of anti-heroes. Like, I mean, Freddy was a child murderer. He kind of, in the later movies, he became kind of like it was you were rooting for him to bump off the teenagers, weren't you? It was what you were supposed to be doing, weren't you?
He was cooler than them.
Yeah.
Or like, well, I made a weird YouTube of that of James Shelby Downard's King Kill 33, and I did include A Nightmare on Elm Street part of it because that's where JFK was shot on Bloody Elm Street in Texas, Dallas, as you probably know.
Yeah. Has Wes Craven actually spoken about why he called it Nightmare on Elm Street? Was it something to do with Kennedy? Was it?
That's a good question. I don't know. So, that's a good question. I don't even. You know what? I don't even know much about him. What he was into. I know that William Peter Bladley, if I'm saying his name right, who wrote the
William Peter Blatty, isn't it? Who wrote The Exorcist?
Yeah. I mean, he knew E. Howard Hunt, the famous CIA guy, and I don't know if you heard that the Mission Impossible stuff with Tom Cruise. They do name Tom's character Ethan Hunt after Hunt.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is weird because talk about two different guys. Tom Cruise looks like a lifeguard or something, and Howard Hunt looks like the real deal.
Yeah.
Like he'd stab you. And we were talking about Nixon. I just cannot believe a guy that streetwise would screw up, breaking into Daniel Ellsberg's office. And I can't go there. A guy that overthrew Latin American countries and everything, he just can't, pick a lock and steal some shrink's files. I can't.
It does seem a bit odd, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's like, it's like James Bond, couldn't, break into an office or something. It's just, I don't know.
Well, James Bond is weird because he goes everywhere telling everyone his name, doesn't he? His real name. It's just, I've always found that really weird. This is like, name's Bond, James Bond. It's like he never tried to hide, did he? He was always there in plain sight, wasn't he?
That is really weird. Yeah, he doesn't use that many pseudonyms. He's just like, I'm Bond.
Yeah. And it's like the villain's catchphrase is always, Mr. Bond, we've been expecting you. It's like he's the worst secret agent in the world, or was he just trying to lull the baddies into a false sense of security and them thinking he's incompetent?
I get, or just that it's all about the selling products, like.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that they have the kit that you buy for making martinis. Sorry, that's not that funny, but they sell like a Bond kit,
Because when the CIA were actually into like the James Bond gadget type nonsense, weren't they? To try and knock off when they tried to knock off, was it Castro? They had all the weird gadgets, didn't they? Was it like literally exploding cigars and things like that?
Oh yeah, I read that they had a thing that they were trying to make his beard fall off or something, or all kinds of stuff like that. There's a guy, and he survived, man. You got to give it to him. They couldn't get him.
Oh, that's the thing I forgot to mention. I was also going to mention the Zodiac killer, the weirdest serial killer of all that they never actually caught.
That case is totally unsolved.
Well, I think they did solve it, didn't they? Isn't it Ted Cruz? Do you remember that meme? Ted Cruz is the Zodiac killer. Have you seen that?
The guy running for president?
Yeah. Ted Cruz is the Zodiac killer. But that Zodiac killer stuff had to be like, it just seems like some sort of like government spy op, doesn't it? Especially like the heavily encrypted messages he was sending.
Oh yeah, and again with the help of the media, yeah, these things. You know what? You just remind me. I've never seen that movie, The Black Dahlia or something. I think I want to see that.
That's about the Black Dahlia, isn't it? It's the woman who was cut perfectly in half, wasn't she?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
No, I've never seen the movie. I've seen a bit about the case though. There's been a few documentaries on Discovery. Some bloke reckons his dad did it. I think.
That's just creepy.
It's such a weird case though, isn't it? She was found like cut perfectly in half, and wasn't her face mutilated as well? I think, wasn't it?
All ghastly stuff. There was a link that Rogan put out that said that this German cannibal guy, they're letting him out with supervised walks or something.
Jesus, is that the Japanese guy that ate somebody? Is that the one?
A German dude.
Oh, German. Was he the one that ate the penis? Wasn't he?
I don't know. Like, there's so many stories, God.
so
It's
many cannibals about, isn't there? Do you know the German cannibal is Hobbit?
Yeah, wasn't the victim like consenting and?
That's the one I'm thinking of. Didn't he eat his penis?
Yeah, the guy sort of like, before you like kill and eat me, I want like you to serve up my penis and eat that first. And so they had a bit of nibble on his willy, and then it's like, all right, I'm ready for the main course now. You got to go.
Yeah.
And the German authorities says, as much as we respect your rights to weird gay sex, no. You can't have this. You're going to jail.
Yeah, cannibalism is just a step too far.
They violated his non-aggression principle, which is very unchill of the Germans.
Oh, they violated his aggression principle, didn't they?
The sources, yeah. Well, I don't know where it stands on that. For whatever reason, they sort of said no, you can't do cannibalism. That's just not on.
Even consensual cannibalism.
Yeah,
there's no form we're going to let you fill out where you can actually cannibalise people.
Yeah, it's just wow. I'm thinking there are exceptions to this, but they're quite disgusting. So
brings a whole new spin to Soylent Green, doesn't it? Soylent Green is penis.
But
how about the things now that they're saying about the coronavirus that are going to have to be done? Like this would be the new normal. You'll never see your family again. How dare you? I
think we've come to the consensus that yes, COVID is worse than a regular flu, but they have also absolutely ballsed up by going way over the top with it. So what they're doing is they're still doing they're going to carry on with the bit because otherwise they'll look stupid.
Well, and the other thing is as well is I think with all governments, it's they don't want to lose credibility, do they? I mean, the idea of that is
they'll do anything other than lose credibility, won't they? They'll throw you into it. They'll throw you into any kind of war rather than lose credibility, won't they?
But to play devil's advocate for them, it's like, oh, well, we lose credibility, and if a proper serious pandemic comes along, then nobody will believe us because they're like, this is just another ching chong cough, isn't it? It's nothing serious. And it's like, but this is like, blood pouring out of your eyes and you're dead within minutes. And, it's, well, yeah. Well,
did you hear about the Harvard guy who got caught with 2 Chinese nationals, military people?
I know Nancy Pelosi had a Chinese agent as a chauffeur, didn't she?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, be right back. I put some water on the boil. The ragu's fine. I just need some pasta.
So what were you going to say about Harvard Chinese?
They caught the guy, and he has some kind of ties to Wuhan, and he's also an expert in liquid computing and nano stuff. Working, and there's an article that he was working on tiny transistors that could attach themselves to cells.
Christ.
And he said the type of stuff that they were working on were beyond science fiction. So, I've got I admit my imagination always goes too far, but first of all, I think that it's the time when it's going to be worse it's going to be when it's nice in the summer, and if it is a bioweapon, they can do it again. I think now people are kind of they're saying, "Oh my gosh, the death toll," or flatten the curve or whatever. But it's always the most dangerous when you think everything's okay.
Yeah,
to my mind, and who's to? I have no idea if you go to some hospital. If there was such thing as nano technology used, I don't think they could pick it up.
Well, I heard someone say once that as far as military technology goes, if you can imagine it, it's already been invented.
Right. It's scary. And plus, if you get the vaccine, obviously this is Fruit Loops to say this, but couldn't the little nanobots be in the vaccine and you wouldn't know?
Well, that's what everyone's saying, aren't they? They're saying the vaccine isn't going to be the vaccine to it. The vaccine is going to be, it's the old problem, reaction, solution stuff, isn't it? They create the problem, then there's a reaction, and they give you the solution, don't they?
And then if you're working at a big tech firm and you take a piss when you weren't supposed to, can they just freaking ignite the bots and get rid of you?
Well, a lot of people die of heart attacks, don't they? Specifically, people who know stuff about stuff. I mean,
yeah. What about the Dr. David Kelly guy?
Yeah, I mean, what did he? He hung himself and then slashed his wrists afterwards, didn't he, or something? and everyone goes, yeah, that's definitely suicide. That is.
Did Blair fire any good reporter left from the BBC over that or something? I couldn't figure that out.
I think they were pretty dumb in the first place. They're pretty unquestioning in the first place, aren't they? The BBC.
The BBC is the MI6, and the New York Times is the CIA, no doubt. I mean,
yeah, because you guys, is it Project Mockingbird, isn't it? When the CIA infiltrated the newsrooms. Oh
yeah. I love that quote by Colby. Anybody in the media of any significance is the CIA. It makes sense.
Because you've got who's the gay guy with the silver hair? Anderson Cooper. Yeah, he's supposed to be like obviously CIA, isn't he?
He's somehow related to the Vanderbilt family, I guess.
Yeah,
it's weird, but and just some people are just gonna like him, because he looks cool with his haircut and glasses, and that's just it. I really believe that's how a lot of people are,
Yeah,
they like Rachel Maddow because she's a certain way, and there's millions of people that are that way, and no matter what you say to people, they just never let go.
Yeah, and because the idea of the TV is that person. I mean, say you're in your house on your own all day. The TV is your friend, isn't it? Because it's talking to you all day, every day, isn't it?
Yeah, and the products are your friend.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas from such and such. I mean, that's so sad.
Yeah.
My early oh, hang on. It would help if I had the microphone close to me. Then yeah. My early to mid 20s, I would say my companion was Alex Jones. He's on 6 days a week, 3 hours a day. So just be listening to him, and that was. Because, I don't want to get too much into it, but some of us are more introverted than others, and I'm sure.
I got a kick. I used to get a kick out of the Art Bell guy.
Yeah, it was the other one, George Norrie. He had a good radio voice. I think there's certain people like Rachel Maddow, or I'm trying to think of a British equivalent to her, but
it's Kay Burley, isn't it?
There's certain people and their tone of voice, I just can't listen to them because I find their voice annoying.
Like nagging, aren't they?
Yeah, that's it. And I just thought, hang on, well, these people, if they're very prominent, they must be popular. Therefore, some people must like that nagging tone of voice.
These people get on your nerves, as they said on South Park.
Oh, what joggers? Yeah, they do.
Naggers.
They're insisting on running around in the roads everywhere.
Well, that Jaguar commercial is that to a T, because Tom, Loki, whatever, and other English guys, they were basically saying, if you want to be a sexy English billionaire villain, then you got to have this car, or you're a loser, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
For the serious stuff, they have to have an English guy, right?
Yeah. It's kind of weird. It's like with the American films, it's like the being English kind of imbues you with intelligence, doesn't it? even though you always lose to the dumb Yankee, it's kind of it's implied that with Englishness comes intelligence, isn't it?
They always they always whip out some wicked intelligent English guy, and then like the regular dumb people from America kick their ass, and it's like, yeah, it's like I don't know.
Well, it's I think Passenger 57 is probably the film that like most shows that up, doesn't it? With do you remember that one with Denzel Washington?
Oh shoot, no.
Wait, are you talking at the taking of Pelham 123?
No. I'm talking about Passenger 57. It's not him. It's Wesley Snipes. Sorry, Wesley Snipes, isn't it? And what's her name? Liz Hurley was the sexy air stewardess who was in with the bad guy.
Because I think Passenger 57. That was Wesley Snipes' first movie. Because I just got curious to see what other films he's been in apart from Demolition Man, and that one comes. He's an air marshal in that.
Yeah.
There was
I think they
remake.
reused that story for Con Air, to be honest, because I think Passenger 57 came first.
Yeah, it did. I've never seen Passenger 57. I might have to watch it at some point, but
it's worth watching because Liz Hurley's in it.
Oh yeah, she's all right.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to bang on too much about this, but there's certain tones, especially of people's voices, where I really can't stand them, and others I'm more inclined to listen to them.
Well, wasn't Tony Blair supposed to have been doing like NLP? Wasn't he? With the isn't it something to do with the rhythms of the way he talks?
Oh, thank you. You've just reminded me. We'll talk about that, of course, but I wanted to say one of the Doom headlines, which really did my head in, by the way, and I think I lost it a bit last night, was this thing about no holidays. And the term they use is like, we must not have these lascivious frivolities. I think they used the word like lascivious.
Is it lascivious? Is it lascivious?
Yeah, but that means sexy, doesn't it? I think they were saying
I thought it did.
We mustn't do these luxurious...
Lavish.
Lavish, that's it. We mustn't have these lavish things. And I'm just like, you're kidding me, right? I mean, everything else...
We've been cooped up in our houses for fucking months. We want to get out, don't we? As far as possible. I mean,
in this modern world, I don't have family. I don't have a stable community or society. The one thing I have got is cheap flights to the Mediterranean, so I can go and see ancient Greek sculptures and statues, and just go.
Or just go and get pissed in Ibiza.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's the other bit too. I mean, go to Ayia Napa, see Colossi Castle, and drink all the cider can or whatever drinks they're doing there. Cyprus, that's it. You got Ayia Napa and you got Colossi Castle and you got beautiful mosaics and you got beautiful titties.
I think Sojourner's corrected us. Lavacious was the word used.
Ah, that's it. Well remembered, Sojourner. Rob Calvert in the chat. He says, "Hey, Pasture 42 starring Rakesh." Pasture 42 Vindaloo.
Yeah, Vindaloo.
Oh, I do like Vindaloo.
I've never been one for Vindaloo.
It's quite creamy. It depends. Some Vindaloos are quite mild. Other ones are what they should be.
Well, I used to work with one guy. His theory was that the further south you go, the drier the curry gets. Because here in Middle FC, we like it quite saucy. But he was from somewhere around about Stevenage sort of area, and down there they like it a lot less sauce on it. So it's pretty much like the meat with the dried sauce on it.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you can go in for that, but I mean, a lot of curries are just a stew, aren't they? They're stew with some rice.
Red hot slop.
Yeah, pretty much. Speaking of red hot slop, I think my pasta's done. So
you disappearing again?
I will be just for.
I thought you had a point you wanted to make of it.
Oh, the point was Lavacious holidays, and that's another NLP point. I'm sorry to detract from your Tony Blair stuff, but I just really lost it when they're saying that holidays are a needless frivolity and not part of our new dystopia we're living in. Fuck these guys.
I think it was obvious that Bush II could not speak good enough to sucker the sheep into Gulf War II, and definitely I feel like Tony Blair had to do a lot of the talking. He's like, I've got it.
Yeah.
Hold on. We need to kill. I mean, we need to go in because of my accent. No, it's just,
Tony
it's just
Blair.
like,
And he's talking like this. And with the gaps like that as well, isn't it? With Tony Blair.
oh, kind of like Obama does something like that.
Yeah, that's supposed to be NLP because of the rhythms.
I love you, George. I know it's hard to put food on your family. He used to say stuff like that, like our goodness is good and their badness is bad, and things like that. I mean, he used to say stuff that would just like freak out people.
Wait, remember George Bush Senior and his "Read my lips, no more taxes."
Both of them are pretty weird.
Do you remember that one, Stash? No more taxes.
No more. Read my lips.
No more taxes. He was CIA through and through, wasn't he, old Georgie boy?
Oh, he was the director.
Yeah.
They said morale. They said morale was good under him. Actually, like, you know, if you can believe it. I mean, but
well, I should imagine morale was good for the CIA, wasn't it? Except their boy in charge.
Yeah, a bonesman.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because he's a skull and bones lad, isn't he?
Oh, definitely. I actually, when I went over, I must have told you this the last. I went over to that place, and that's like a little chunk of England in Connecticut over there.
Is the Skull and Bones like the Bullingdon Club? Have you heard of the Bullingdon Club, Stash?
Is that the Harvard one or
no? The Bullingdon Club is the Oxford one, where a lot of them tend. Boris was in there when he was Boris and David Cameron were both members of the Bullingdon Club.
I say no doubt it's just a thing that they have, and I was talking to the janitor guy there.
Yeah,
you know, because that's where you get the real story, right? You go to the janitor guy. And he said, by law, they have to look at the boiler room, whatever. And I was like, what's in there? He's like, oh, they got dead animals in there and stuff. And he said, but the thing he said was everybody wanted to be in it. And they used to do like a thing which sounded like magic called pennies from heaven.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they throw pennies off the roof to the good-looking women and all this stuff. And it's like, but I was listening to a BBC show one time, and the kid was staking out the place, and he was just waiting there, and the doors open, and an Islamic woman came out. So you know, it's definitely changed, but it's apocalyptic in that they have a Gog and Magog brother, Bonesman, and a tall Bones and a short Bones. And you know, Kerry and Bush were in it, and they were running for president, and it just made it seem like a silly. I guess I haven't seen it, but they say that the House of Cards guy, that weird actor in his own right, there's a scene where it sort of gives that idea.
Oh, do you
like
mean what's his name? You mean what's his name? The one who came out as gay after he molested that kid. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey. That's
Kevin
the word.
Spacey. Yeah. Kaiser Soze.
Yeah, himself.
Yeah. Kaiser Soze. That was awesome when he's like obviously made it all up. I don't know if you've probably seen you.
Yeah, I've seen the that also leads you on to the guy that directed it, doesn't it? When Bryan Singer.
But what's up with this? Every guy that's come out and said that Kevin Spacey has harmed them is they keep dropping dead.
Really? I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that's. Have you ever heard the rants of actor Randy Quaid?
Yeah.
It's like he's not stable, but he's like, all my friends are dead, man. Heath Ledger, Nicole, what is that giant busted lady, you know, David Carradine.
Nicole Smith.
Nicole Smith.
Anna Nicole Smith. Anna Nicole Smith, wasn't it?
Heath Ledger. I was surprised that he knew David Carradine, whatever.
Yeah, well, the David Carradine was self-inflicted, weren't it? When it's choking himself while he's whacking off, wasn't it?
How could our hero from the TV show Kung Fu go out that way? That's what I can't.
Yeah. Oh, Grasshopper would be well disappointed, wouldn't he?
I hope that, if I become the kind of conspiracy theory guy they want, that they just don't do that to me, man. I don't.
Yeah, just anything but hanging yourself from the door while wanking. It's just anything else.
Hey, if that happens to me, it's not me, man.
Yeah. No, you want to go shooting yourself twice in the back of the head like the Clinton one, don't you?
I know, and anybody who listens to the media be like, yes, it happened, but how do you? I don't know. He was. How can you shoot yourself in the back of the head with the long gun? Never mind.
Yeah, twice, because he was so thorough. It was just a thorough man, like to do things properly.
The one that freaks me out, one of the most, is Danny Casolaro.
Who's he? I don't know who he is.
He had this thing that he wrote about called The Octopus, and he was blowing the story on the Promise software, which is a super software that could track anybody.
Is that the one that Israel stole? Is that the Promise software?
Yeah, Maxwell.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were all in on it. And with the back door. Yeah, Gordon Thomas wrote about it. Maxwell. I don't know if you know that guy. He's pretty good.
Yeah, you're talking about Robert Maxwell, because he was a
Roman, wasn't Gordon Thomas. Yeah. Robert Maxwell sold a modified
Ghislaine's dad.
Promise with the back door. But Danny Casolaro didn't even reach to that point where the English guy Gordon Thomas did, and I think that he just told the story way later and whatever. But he was also talking about the Bank and Commerce Credit International and all this stuff, and he said to his brother, I wouldn't kill myself, whatever. And then they just found, that he slit his wrist and everything, and it's like they laminated him, man. No autopsy. There's just nothing to see here. It's like,
oh Jesus.
And you would have thought they would have did a movie about him, and I really think there's just some that they're not going to do a film on, like that.
Yeah, I think it was too close. They don't, because a film will always create interest, won't it? So people will look into the story.
I think, although they made The International with Clive Owen.
Is that based on the same thing, is it?
It's based on the BCCI Superbank.
Yeah.
But they're very general. It's a huge subject, and they can only address a little bit,
Yeah, because wasn't it the BCCI that Nick Leeson tanked? Do you remember Nick Leeson in the 80s? He was a trader that took a bank down.
That was Barclay. That was a big house of trading of England. BCCI was Pakistan.
Hold on, let me have a look.
You're talking about Nick Leeson, the guy they made the Ewan McGregor, whatever played.
That's it. Yeah, they did a film about it. Because I thought that was BCCI. I thought that was BCCI that he took down.
BCCI just.
Bearings Bank he took down.
Bearings. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember Bearings Bank. What happened to them?
Nick Leeson fucked it up.
Not to be confused with Liam Neeson.
United Kingdom's oldest merchant bank.
And he tanked it.
Oopsie.
Because didn't the BCCI stuff come after Bearings Bank, didn't it?
I thought it was like 1991 or something, or that it liquidated. Everybody, John Major was in it. all the presidents, the Contras, the Sandinistas, the Manuel Noriega, Saddam. Everybody was involved with that.
Did you know? BCCI was founded in 1972 by Aga Hassan Abedi, a Pakistani financier.
Yeah. Weird looking cat. And Adnan Khashoggi had something to do with it too, I think. Yeah. You know, they used his boat in Never Say Never Again.
Did they?
Yeah, that's that Bond one.
My fact about Never Say Never Again. Did you know Never Say Never Again isn't actually a Bond film? It isn't a proper Bond film because it wasn't.
Really?
Yeah, somehow it's made, but it's nothing to do with the Broccoli's, who do the rest of the Bond films. So it's not actually canon Bond.
Oh, okay. That's what. Yes, I don't know what you thought. I thought that was the funniest Bond one.
Yeah, because it's like completely different in tone and everything to the rest of the Bond films, isn't it?
How did that get made then?
I don't know. But the only reason I know that because I went to there was a Bond exhibit down in Portsmouth that I went to, and it's got like loads of facts about James Bond, and that's one of them.
I got curious about the name Albert Broccoli because it's not one you see every day. He was an Italian and used to get in a fair few fights as well, apparently.
Is he a director or the producer?
Did you know Never Say Never Again is based on Thunderball, the novel?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Albert Broccoli co-produced the films with I can't remember the other bloke's name, but he wouldn't part with the story ideas, so Albert Broccoli had to work with him.
Yeah.
I do a bit that nobody liked on Fatima Blush. I go, I'm tired. I've just flown in from Vienna, where I've been studied for my sexual stamina. And I also tell women that I am an NHL hockey goalie because that sounds better than I live with my mother. Whatever.
Oh, this sounds good. Apparently, when Never Say Never was originally planned in '64, they held initial talks with Richard Burton. Could you imagine that? Richard Burton as Bond.
No way, really?
That would have been awesome, wouldn't it?
The dog seems to approve.
Well, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold could be maybe the best spy movie, I guess, right? I don't know.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, check that one out.
It was the one that produced the Harry Palmer films, because apparently there's 3 of them, and I've only seen the Ipcris file.
Third Man is one of them, isn't it?
I mean, I'm told that was Harry Palmer was supposed to be contemporary of James Bond, but doing more of the less glamorous spy work. That was
I've never heard that.
Yeah, the Ipcris file was supposed to be like a less glamorous James Bond, and Harry Palmer was just, still very much in the same sort of light as James Bond, former Army as opposed to former Navy.
Now I'm going way off coincidence. Do you guys ever get in those arguments of who's the best special forces?
What do you mean? What do you mean it's not even an argument, it's the SAS? What do you mean, Stash? What are you saying?
I know. Damn you guys, it's just weird. Who has the best record for that?
Someone was telling me that with the British Armed Forces, their basic training is X number of weeks compared to the American Armed Forces, where they get significantly less. And the American Special Forces, not all branches, but most of them, their training is equivalent to the basic training in the Royal Army. Whereas,
really?
Something like Delta Force has the equivalent amount of training of the SAS. I suppose Special Forces includes things like the, is it the 101st Airborne, where not Jimmy Savile, who is that musician? Come on.
Hendrix.
Hendrix, that's it. Yeah, he was a paratrooper. He wasn't just a you're a conscripted GI. He was the big shebang.
The only statistic I know about paratroopers is apparently their life expectancy in battle is about 2.2 seconds. Because obviously they go in by parachute.
I was going to say, is that before or after they've touched ground?
Yeah, I think it's probably from leaving the plane / helicopter. I should imagine.
I'd say you have to give the assassination to the Mossad. They have the 27,000 confirmed in the book Rise and Kill or something. And right now, I feel like the fighting spirit and camaraderie of the Russians is the best. That's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, some Rob Calvert said in chat that Spetsnaz training is the most hardcore.
Yeah, I think that. I feel that I feel a lot has to do with camaraderie and how you back up your friends. And I feel that right now they have the hegemony. Am I saying that word right?
Yeah.
Well, we don't have chaplains blessing weapons with holy water, do we? I mean,
but for the longest time, the Rudyard Kipling and going and winning the hearts and minds, that had to be the British, right? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, do you remember that? Do you remember that bit? Was it? I know it's Monty Python, but I can't remember whether it's The Meaning of Life or not. Where the redcoat's in the jungle and a tiger's had his leg and he's like, yeah, it's no bother. Do you remember that? Have you ever seen that sketch?
Oh, Monty Python.
Yeah, it's one of like the redcoats from Zulu sort of time when they're in the jungle and the guy's had his leg bitten off by a tiger and he's like really really playing it down. Have you ever seen that sketch? That's a really good sketch. That is.
I mean that's sort of living up to white man's burden to a T.
Yeah. And he's got his leg missing and he's just really really playing it down. I'm pretty sure it's the meaning. I'm pretty sure it's the meaning of life. I'm not 100% sure.
Didn't the Queen kind of she gave money to the pirates if they would kick ass, kind of like Blackwater or something, like the privateering?
Yeah, because it was almost like government mandated piracy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it that, or were they just allowed to keep what they stole? I can't remember.
Well, Sweden was a haven for pirates back then. No other ports would have them in Europe, but Sweden was open to them. I suppose they had some sort of reciprocal arrangement. Because
apparently pirate crews were they were like highly democratic, weren't they? It's not what you think of, where like the pirate captain was some sort of evil, dictator dictating what everybody did. It was all supposed to be very very democratic.
Well, doesn't that make sense when, I mean, in the age of sail, press ganging was a serious thing, and so you'd want to stay away from the coast, especially if the Navy was around.
Yeah.
And being on the ship is worse than being in the prison. The food's worse, and you have a chance of sinking, which you don't in a prison. So the idea of going to piracy, it's like, well, at least you get to set sail and plot a course.
Yeah. Because apparently, is it Edward Teach? Is he Blackbeard? If he would have been like in the Navy, he would have been like a huge star in the Navy because his tactics were supposed to be second to none, weren't they?
Well, where do you think he learned them from?
Yeah.
Do you think Dr. John Dee used magic to sink the Spanish fleet, or is that just bullocks?
Zero's theory on it was that you know the story about Drake playing bowls before he went. The story is there that he was consulting some sort of magical crystal skull thing.
Oh, okay. Before the battle, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they were using some rickety old ships as fire ships, and there was a storm, and they managed to defeat the most powerful navy in the world. and I was told a modern equivalent of this, I'm not sure how much of this is hyperbole, but was imagine, say, for example, the US Air Force being bested by a Mexican Air Force with Cessnas and crop dusters. And that's the equivalent of what the British managed to pull off in the Spanish Armada defeat.
Oh, no way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Spanish Armada was a formidable force back then. They had plenty of gold and plata. The plata is what they call the silver. And it's I find it interesting because I was looking up the history of platinum and palladium, and when they were shipping back silver from the New World, they was like, oh yeah, it's not pure silver, it's adulterated with this other shiny substance. Yeah, it's bloody useless, isn't it? Let's refine it out. So they were just refining out all this platinum and palladium from their silver.
Ah. Or I guess just John Dee, and well, they say he was sort of out of the picture by then, but I don't know. I mean, it's just there's the possibility that he wasn't. He was just really smart, and he took a look at the maps and knew about the weather and what. And same thing for Drake. I don't know. I mean,
being able to know when a storm comes, I mean that to me would require some sort of special esoteric knowledge.
Yeah, Zero was a strong believer in the fact that the British Empire was just complete will to power.
Oh, I mean, that makes sense. So if you look at people like the original 007, was that Francis Drake?
I think that is
Bacon?
John Dee. That is John Dee, isn't it? The original
that's John Dee.
Yeah, John Dee, that's his cipher, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure if it was him, Bacon, or Drake, which said that because microscopes were a new thing back then, as we look down on these creatures and call them microbes, if we were to imagine the same scale up and call these creatures macrobes, you can communicate with them, but we are so insignificant to them. So it was, I think it might have been John Dee, and that's why they call Elizabeth the Fairy Queen. They were consulting macrobes, and they were making an empire. I'm not sure what benefit the macrobes get out of it. I mean, imagine if you had like some bacteria in the petri dish, and there's like, oh yeah, we're the Streptococcus albans. We want to do away with this E. coli and flagella and other bacteria. So help us out. And it's like, all right, I'll drop a bit more sugar solution on your colony then. what would you get out of it?
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, exactly.
But even and to create that psychology, to tell the queen that you're the fairy queen, and we have a destiny before God, that God and stuff like that carried over into this America. It's a big problem, really. This we're the city on the hill, and whether you're atheist or all the goody goodness, we must decide everything, and I don't know.
Well, America got a lot of that as well. I mean, it just seems it from day one, especially with Washington D.C. It was just like it's got to be laid out in certain auspicious ways, and it's all planned out. Do
you not think that maybe in some part like America is some sort of giant sacrifice? Because when you look at the founding of America, I mean, how much of the stories you believe about them, but there was certainly a lot of death. I mean, there was things like the Donner Party, and I should imagine that was like an uncommon thing, was it? So even if you like forget the rights and wrongs of like what happened to the American Indians, there's still a lot of blood in the founding of America, isn't there?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, there's that country is paved in our blood. It's through and through. It's. I mean, they call it the New Atlantis. That's it. What's who wrote the New Atlantis? I've never read it.
Don't know.
Was that a Bacon one?
Yeah, I can't remember. That's the problem. You see, I'm not well read on this stuff. I've heard the names here and there, and just. It's like I heard a song the other day. It's like, oh, it's like Jimi Hendrix. And it's like, no, it's the Iron Butterfly. These bands were from before my time, therefore just so, oh well, there's contemporary of Hendrix, yeah, but it's not Hendrix. It's So likewise, the new Atlantis. I mean, I could look into the search engine right now and just be like, "Oh yes, I'm very clever. I know it's by Sir Francis Bacon. Was it Francis Drake? Oh God, I can't even get their names right.
Drake was the
I
explorer.
think it's all very biblical. Very biblical.
Well, Atlantis doesn't feature in any of the Bible stories, does it? I mean, I always find that was an interesting omission.
But to carry on the American blood sacrifice thing, I mean, what goes on in Chicago every weekend? I mean, if that's not some sort of blood sacrifice, what is? It's crazy, isn't it? The amount of death that goes on in America.
Bloods and Crip sacrifice.
Yeah.
Is Rahm Emanuel still the mayor of Chicago?
No, they finally got him out.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
What? Was he too corrupt for the mobsters?
I think it was a police shooting, African American guys, and he didn't. He covered up or something. They finally had enough of him.
Yeah, I'm surprised they put up with that. I mean, wasn't he? He was in the Obama administration for a bit. What was he doing? I can't remember. Joe Biden was the vice president.
Chief of staff.
What is a chief of staff? Is it like our whip in the House of Commons?
I guess it's more like a spokesman or whatever.
Yeah.
He's a dual citizenship guy. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah. Oh, apparently Lincoln was part of the tribe.
Yeah, I saw that. I read that somewhere today.
Yeah, did you post it up on Fortean words? But he's from.
No, I think someone else did. I think, or did I forward it? I can't remember.
Well, I remember reading about it, and it's like their tribe is from Lincoln since the 12th century, and came over to America, and all these rabbis were eulogizing his death. So John Wilkes Booth, ancestor of Cherie Blair.
Yeah, unless you go back to go to kind of communist countries, there's not many other countries that have had as much death as America in them, have they?
A certain kind of like the thing that it makes it all benign. That's the thing. I think there's always war and stuff, but there's something about America that turned it into kind of a sanitary thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I got to say, I'm going to be one of those people that does it. But I mean, in the communist countries, the death is violent. And it's often with machine guns and mass graves. But in America, you go to Planned Parenthood, and that's where the genocide's happening.
Yeah, it's all squeaky clean.
Yeah,
which is wild. There's no need for the gulag. You just do it yourself or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen arguments for and against it, but ultimately, I'm just thinking there's got to be some sort of psychic toll to pay with that much baby murder.
Yeah, especially it's like a rite of passage or something. I don't know. It's like a.
Oh, well, that's the other thing. It is a cult. I mean, with certain people, when they're celebrating it, it's just like, I mean, I get annoyed when people start championing masturbation and saying what a great thing and how healthy it is. And I've always regarded it as like, it's a necessary evil, but you should be ashamed and disgusted with yourself if you've done it. And, not something that you say to your friends of, oh, I masturbated today and I'm proud. And you've got these women with abortions sort of saying, I had an abortion, I'm proud. I'm like, that's even more disgusting than masturbation.
Yeah, it goes back to the celebrity thing. It's like the things that people are supposed to have some self-control now, and that are totally wacky are now seen as very, very very excellent things.
This world is topsy-turvy, and that's why I say it can't be sustainable. And with the light of this killer disease, which the demonetization virus, it's just become a very, very surreal year. It really is. It's I was hoping it's like, okay, finally it's the end, and we can have a new order. But it's like, well, I'm getting a new order, but they say you should be careful what you wish for. This new order is horrible. I don't like it. They're revealing all their plans, what they want to do, saying like, oh yeah, well, people don't want to work in the abattoirs now because they're worried about getting the cough. So meat's going to become scarce, and there's all these farmers which are having to dump their food because they're saying, oh well, half of our food goes to restaurants and we can't sell it to people for reasons of packaging or some bollocks like that. So yeah, we're going to have to start selling impossible meat and insect substitutes for meat in the shops. And you can't go on holiday anymore because, oh no, plane travel will be have to restricted, but all these people are going to be shipped into your country to pick the food via planes. And here's some migrants from a country where tuberculosis has been eradicated, and they're going to be flown into your country. I'm just like, this is the worst deal possible, and I don't think there's much we can do. I mean, we can complain, and there's a lot of people saying this is bollocks, this is overblown, and but none of these arguments, or very few of them, unfortunately, do they say, well, we got control for this experiment with Sweden and the Netherlands. Their death rate is not any worse than other countries.
It's kind of scary to think that Network was a film from 1976, and it's just as pertinent today as it was then. We haven't moved one bit in 40 odd years.
Oh God, it really is. I mean, this system, yeah, that film is very accurate. I'll tell you which another film I saw recently, which it's kind of feel good, but in another way, it shows the same dystopia. Ready Player One. Have you seen that?
I haven't watched that. I do want to. I do want to watch it.
Directed by Steven Spielberg, and it shows a dystopia, but I think it shows a dystopia in a very accurate way. Everyone is obsessed with virtual reality, and all their lives are shitty around them. And but you know they.
Well, what's that other one? Is it Surrogate? What's the one where they got the robot bodies? You seen that one?
Oh, is that the one with Bruce Willis?
Is it Surrogates? Is it Surrogates?
I can't remember, really.
But you know the film I'm talking about, don't you? Where everyone has like robot avatars, and it's just like that's the way it's going, isn't it?
Have you heard that the tech companies they collect all your data or whatever when you do the social media, and then I've heard that they are building a sim you with your medical records.
They got a name for it. Do they call it your avatar or something like that?
Yeah.
And
then the biometrics, the military even uses that to examine people, for at checkpoints, biometric. And then there's not just face recognition, but bone and organ recognition and voice recognition.
Even your gaits, because I mean, you might be able to mask up your face and stuff, but most people can't change their gaits.
Yes.
Everyone should,
right?
Everyone should become a juggalo, because facial recognition can't cope with juggalos, can it?
But you got to also be a juggalo that practices to be in the Ministry of Silly Walks. You got to be hard to predict. And here's the other thing about Facebook as well. Say everyone in your family but you's using it, and there's photographs where you're in family photos and someone puts it on. Well, they're building up a profile of you. They're sort of saying, oh yeah, my brother, my uncle, my son, he's this and that. And oh yeah, I saw him at this thing. So you may not have an active Facebook profile, but there will be an avatar of you built based on your family connections and the mentions that you get.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can try as hard as you like to stay off social media. If someone else is on it, that's it. You're in, aren't you? It's almost like invasion of the.
Download me.
It's like invasion of the body snatchers, isn't it? But even more insidious.
When MIT downloads me, that's going to be the end of the New World Order. I am weird enough, you guys. Let them make a sim of me.
Yeah, we've just got to hope one of us can crash the system.
That's right, you guys. If the British government makes sims of you guys, it's all over.
I'm just I'm hoping there'll be like administrators from this, and when they do like a simulacrum of me, there'll just be like so much racism and shit posting that they'll just have a mental breakdown. It's like, no, delete all of this. This is
well, you remember? Did you read that article, Stash, not too long back, where we're sending the YouTube monitor administrators insane?
Oh yeah, because
there was that one guy that my favourite one was that guy who had the whole of his house mapped. He had every single escape route mapped and memorised in his head. He slept with a gun under the pillow.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm hoping, that they read my stuff. Yeah, right, and go nuts. Yeah. Well, I went the other way. I was never getting on YouTube, and then I got on and started talking about, all this stuff that I shouldn't really. But I'm like, I don't care. They probably know everything anyway, and
Yeah.
Well, the thing is now we've got a bit of security in just the sheer numbers of people talking about all this stuff, and I like to think I'm part of that. You see, you got the original people that, like on the Declaration of Independence, they're signing their death warrants by signing on it, and then you got more and more people. They didn't sign their name on that original declaration, but they all had their parts to play in the. And by the way, that independence parliament in the United Kingdom, they wanted it too. They were quite happy for the 13 colonies to sort of work with them rather than against them. It's just King George III was just like, no, fuck these peasants.
Wasn't he insane and his piss was blue?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because they
and I just thought they'd carry on letting him run the country, even though he was so insane his piss turned blue.
Wasn't it? Was it Nigel Hawthorne starred as him in The Madness of?
Yeah.
They
have you heard the Stash? You're probably going to like this one. The Madness of King. Apparently, it was originally going to be called The Madness of King George III, but they worried if they marketed it to American audiences that they'd wonder where parts 1 and 2 were.
I saw it. I thought we were like Iraq for you guys. It was like, worldwide empire, and that holding on to this colony was too much of a pain. But then I go through thinking, weren't they all in the Hellfire Club and all this crap? And it was kind of a gentlemanly fight, a bunch of Masons fighting or something. I don't know.
Well, I suppose that's the thing with the elites. After a while, they eventually just go. They will turn on one another when it suits themselves.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, the parliamentarians they were on board with this idea as well. I suppose they thought they stood to gain from it, and George III was just it was just a mad bastard, wasn't he? He was also contemptuous of everyone else.
What was that disease he had? I can't find it.
I'm looking at him right now, and constitutional struggle, American War of Independence, later life. Does it say? Oh, let's have a look at his early life.
Oh, apparently a study of the samples of the king's hair, published in 2005, revealed high levels of arsenic, a possible trigger for the disease.
Arsenic, eh?
Yeah.
Who was tasting his food?
Did he recover after that and realize he made a mistake in bothering with it, or was that just a movie thing?
I think it's probably a movie thing, because they think that he probably had bipolar in this, they say. Spurious stories about his condition spread, such as the claim that he shook hands with a tree in the mistaken belief it was the King of Prussia.
There's things like that, and I'm just sort of thinking back. Did he do anything that was like really funny in sort of, because I'm just thinking like, was it Nero or Augustus? No, not Augustus. He doesn't sound. I think it was either Nero or who was the other one, which was a bit of a pervert. Not Claudius.
Oh,
Caligula.
Caligula.
And he married his horse, and he had the harrispexes, which normally they gut a rabbit or a sheep and examine the entrails to give you signs. So he had the harrispexes, like saying, yeah, my wife's just taken a shit. I want you to see it for omens. And if they said anything he disagreed with, he'd have them put to death. I just thought, you know what? I mean, yeah, okay, he's insane, but at the same time, he was doing a lot of trolling, which I've got to have some respect for. He was a mad lad. But George III was a mad lad, but not in a fun way. And here's the thing. I'm looking at this article right now, and I want to know what this word means. This word's new to me. It says, the king was determined never to acknowledge the independence of the Americans. Well, he's right there. You colonials need to learn your place. And to punish their contumacy by the indefinite prolongation of a war which promised to be eternal. But the contumacy of and to punish their contumacy. So you colonials, why are you being so contument to the eternal Anglo? Explain yourselves. Explain this word to me, this contumance.
All I know is we're lucky to be a colony of England, because look at the beautiful super countries, Canada, US, Australia. They're like fantastic. And how would you like to be some of those other places? Oh my God. You know what I mean? I mean,
mind you, Canada seems to be going to the Chinese from what I hear.
I think totally, right? I think the free speech of Canada is gone almost completely now, right? From what I heard, I don't know.
It's completely gone in France. There was a new law enacted today. It's if you there's a channel on Telegram called Gallia Daily, which translates stuff into English, and they've done a new thing where they're saying if someone posts anything which the French government dislikes, then you'll be fined €1,500, and you've got 30 days to take the post down and to give the information about the user to the French authorities. And it doesn't just apply to people in France. So if I was to make a post which would get circulated around in France, which would be critical of their regime, because it is a military dictatorship. I mean, I know they've got elections and stuff, but it's always been a military junta. I could be facing trial in France and have to answer for my crimes. And well, you said bad stuff against the glorious Fifth Republic of France. How do you plead? I plead.
Weird.
I plead the 100 Years' War will commence again if you do not release me without let or hindrance. So yeah, but this is the thing. It's around the world. It's not just France. I mean, Germany's always been shit with this. I mean, it seemed they quite like the Stasi and Gestapo and never got rid of it. So they've always had that. Although some Germans would tell me how great they're and free and independent their press are. According to some numbers I've seen, trust in the press seems to be lowest in the UK, quite high in Belgium, very high in Germany and Scandinavian countries. But yeah, here
I feel like I got it here now, though. I feel like I'm not able to. I don't consider myself the brightest bulb, but I feel like I'm not allowed to express myself in a conversation with people now. Like you guys said with the media, I say something, I want to bring up a topic, and everybody's just like, you're so weird, or you're not. You know, it's so unsophisticated. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the thing is, I think one of the things we have to acknowledge is that there's always censorship, and it's just like, is the censorship serving the community, or is it not serving the community? I mean, if it's saying like 500 years ago, if you say, yeah, I don't believe Jesus is our savior, it'd just be like, no, shut the fuck up. What are you talking about? Stop being such an idiot. Do you want to smack? So there would be like, you know, a community censorship if you're saying unpopular things, but now there's just sort of things like, you must not argue against the status quo, and if you do, then you're obviously racist and evil.
Do you remember this, like Mary, when Mary Whitehouse was right? I mean, that's one of the weirdest things to say, isn't it? Everyone thought she was just a busybody back in the day, didn't they? I
barely remember Mary Whitehouse.
She was like a She was like a prude on the TV, but you know, everyone thought she was like way over the top. But when you look what you got now, she was bang on, wasn't she?
Yeah, yeah. The thing is, so whilst I think we all agree we got a certain amount of censorship. There's certain things you just can't say because it'll upset people. There's too much of it now, and there's conversations which I would have at the pub or at work, which I'd never do on YouTube because, especially if if I was a host, I wouldn't say it, and if I'm a co-host, I don't want to get my chums in trouble. So there's just one of the things is just expressing anger. I mean, I've always, again, growing up listening to Daddy Alex Jones when he starts Fed posting about 1776 or commence again.
Yeah.
And it's just like we just can't even joke about that sort of stuff anymore.
But I think taking him off the platforms is just like you have to, like they try to say Trump said drinks bleach or whatever. There has to be something left to the public. If you're dumb enough to drink the bleach down, I mean, and if Alex says something, there has to be some freedom that the person makes a mistake. Like if they should bust the Nigerian mail fraud guys, but if everybody falls for it.
Well, that's it. I mean,
if you don't know by now that Nigerian princes aren't skin, it's surely it's got to be your problem by now, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. If he says, if it says, "Give me your bank account over your email," I mean, I guess what I meant to say is Alex Jones. I guess he should get busted if he broke some law or something. That's something different, but. It's like if it's out there, people should be able to listen. I mean, it's like you guys were talking one of your broadcasts. The breakdown was like, there's no because of the globalism, there's no England anymore. The greatest country ever. I feel like it's reduced to, meaningless now. Whereas it's very important to read about England, everything. I feel like it's disappeared.
There's a point about that. I want to quote Demolition Man with Wesley Snipes, where he's turning around to Nigel Hawthorne. He says, "You can't take away people's right to be an arsehole."
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like you can't legislate against stupid. I mean, there's all these signs like caution hot water and hot water taps, or with McDonald's saying contents may be hot, caution. And I think, in my world, I would get rid of all warning signs. If you don't understand that something like a chainsaw or an angle grinder is a dangerous tool and you can result in loss of life and limb from using it, then you know what? You deserve to have your fingers lopped off.
It's like if you buy an apple pie from McDonald's and bite straight into it, then you're a nutter. It's literally, the thing's been microwaved. Are you insane?
Yeah,
and yet they are so brilliant. Want to practically get in a nuclear war over alleged tampering of Facebook ads with the Russians who have nuclear weapons. I mean, they're supposed to be so smart.
Isn't just Russia like a real life version of Emmanuel Goldstein? You've got to have your 5 minutes of hate against the evil Emmanuel Goldstein.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm like Polish or something, so I'm concerned. I don't like how they're the Slavic brother getting into it with Slavic brother over nothing.
You got to sort out your mates. You got to tell them to fuck off and leave us alone. We can pick our own fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to. I mean, if you figured out how to speak English, you got to tell your cousins in the old country how to do it as well, because not all Polacks are scumbags. I mean, Bobby Vinton was a good example of your race.
Bobby V.
I love Bobby Vinton.
Bobby Vinton. He did Blue on Blue and Blue Velvet.
Oh, I was thinking of Bobby V. Rubber Ball. Wasn't he supposed to be Vietnamese or something?
Oh, I don't know. I for whatever reason last year I was shaving and I heard Blue on Blue, and it was the perfect song to.
You've not been watching some David. You've been down the David Lynch rabbit hole, have you? Because that's Blue Velvet, isn't it?
Oh God, I tried to watch Blue Velvet, but it was too much. I mean, I love Dune, but most of David Lynch's films, Dune and Twin Peaks, I can watch those because again, I like to pretend that it's just Paul Atreides' fever dream, and he's in Twin Peaks.
I try to defend my people with the Copernicus thing. I tried doing a bit about it. And you tell all the Pollock jokes. What about Copernicus? Come on. You'd still think that the sun revolves around the earth. And I run amok. Hunger strike against the Polish jokes. That's my thing. When I got into London, the Polish kid says to me, it's not that bad here, but there's still jokes.
The jokes over here used to be the Irish. The Polish jokes are an American thing. It was always the Irish that played the part of the Pole in our humour.
Oh, really?
Oh, you got the free man joke where you got an Englishman, an Irishman, and a Scotsman.
Yeah, so you had the Englishman who was like dead rigid. You had the Scotsman who was slightly more humorous, and then it was the Irishman that was the butt of the joke.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So you've got what is it? What is it? You've got Englishman, Irishman, got an Englishman, Irishman, and Scotsman are driving through the Sahara, and their Land Rover breaks down. So they each decide to take a bit from the Land Rover. So the Englishman, I can't remember what it. I think he takes a bit of the roof. He takes the roof section so he can put it over his head for shade. The Scotsman takes the bottle of whiskey so he's got something to drink. And then the Irishman, he takes the door. So they say to him, "What are you taking the door for?" He says, "So I can wind the window down when it gets too hot."
It is one, right? So you got an Englishman, an Irishman, and a Scotsman, and they're all playing golf together, and they're talking about modern technology and conveniences. And this joke's quite dated because of facts will be the punchline.
Yeah.
So one of them, he says, "Oh, it's great, this modern technology. I mean, my golf caddy's got this car phone on there. I can take calls on it." And he says, the Scotsman goes, "Oh, aye, that's nothing. My golf club's a mobile phone." And the Irishman goes off into the bushes, and there's like, "Oh, where are you going?" It's like, "Oh, I'm just receiving a fax."
Talk about stereotypes, though. One of the hardest ones to be in the States, which it's unsaid, is the so-called WASP thing. It's just like tons and tons of movies, portraying the guy as a bad guy, or, "Oh my God, the Protestant work ethic has ruined everything," and it's insane. It's just daily.
Well, all those 80s comedies where it was the evil wasp guy they had to do the skiing competition against to win the community centre back, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's like hundreds of them, and some of it is fun. It's funny anyway, but it's bad, like Caddyshack or whatever, but always there's like this wasp guy that's evil, and yet they make him stupid too.
A bit like Archie Bunker.
Yeah, Archie Bunker. Yeah, Nixon. Me and Hemi would talk about Nixon.
Yeah,
how he was on tapes complaining about Archie Bunker with Ehrlichman or Harlickman, whatever. Hilarious. I mean,
we had an equivalent Archie Bunker over here called Alf Garnett, and he was part of the tribe, that actor. And so the thing is, it's not as funny then, because you realise that he's not one of us. He's just having a go at one of us. He's a bit like Ali G and Borat and all those other things that he went on to do. No, that's not the actor Alf Garnett. That's Sacha Baron Cohen, whose brother is the foremost authority in autism.
Right, we've been going 2.5 hours now. Should we wrap it up, lads?
Oh, sorry, guys.
Yeah, no
problem. I wanted to say,
final thought from Hobbit.
As we're going on about the wasp thing, is the wasp like a modern-ish replacement for the evil British wanting to oppose us brave free Americans?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they always do have like an English accent. The father, or at least has like an RP accent, doesn't he?
Yeah, and they're all sort of stuffy and played, and they just oh, they're just such squares, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're all squaring things off those squares, jerky squares.
Oh man, I hope I didn't take you guys too off topic. I loved it, man.
No, I quite like. Do you want to just drop us an email again when you want to come back on? We'll have another chat. I quite enjoy it. We quite enjoy a bit of free form, don't we, Hobbit?
Well, I like it. It's like, oh, good. I don't have to talk about woo woo. I can talk about pop culture. Something I'm far more versed in.
Me too, brother.
Yeah.
Right, so that's us wrapping it up. Night all.
There's more truth in
Take care, you guys.
fiction.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
There's
no
truth
problem.
in fiction.
Stash Prada. Find him on YouTube.